All content on this channel is free. Just drop a like to support, and thank you all so much. This guy was an abandoned bastard of a wealthy family. Yet he became the 8th-ranked hero on the leaderboard. Because the soul of Twilight, an otherworldly swordsman, was reborn in this body. 2 months ago, I was still on that shattered land. I fought endless, bloody battles against invading monsters, day after day, year after year. A whole decade slipped by in the blink of an eye. My blade hacked through bone, cleaving deep abysses as giant maws tore at struggling beasts. Even the most ferocious monsters turned to dust beneath my blade. Until the day I crossed paths with the Demon King on a trail of slaughter. My heart, hardened by endless bloodshed, felt like stone, yet before him, I felt utterly insignificant. Looking down at me, his voice grated like grinding stones. "Give up," he said. "The world you protect is already dead." But even if this world was ending, I refused to yield. Because he was the monster who caused it all. Staring down at me, he mocked. "You have peerless sword skills, yet you ended up in this pathetic state. Why not become my accessory? At least you would be put to good use." His words filled me with rage. "Don't toy with me, monster," I roared, summoning every ounce of my remaining strength to slash at him. But he did not even flinch. As our attacks clashed, my sword tip barely grazed his skin, leaving nothing but a faint scratch on his iron-hard scales. "No matter how hard you struggle, you are nothing but an insect to me," he sneered. Then, the Demon King's blade slashed down, tearing through space itself. I braced myself to block the terrifying strike, but the impact made my entire body shudder. Blood dribbled from the corner of my mouth. Still, I felt no fear. I charged him again and again. But his massive frame seemed completely unfazed by my desperate attempts. It was as if none of my attacks mattered, and he swatted me away like a fly. I thought the world had abandoned us. But its last remaining spark of fading will suddenly revealed his weakness. A glowing crystal, pulsating in perfect rhythm with the Demon King's movements, it trembled gently, as if breathing. The Demon King raised his blade once more. "Foolish human, your final struggle is pathetic," he mocked. "Your world is already ashes, and your skull will make a fine addition to my collection." His voice rumbled like thunder, but I saw my chance. I channeled every scrap of my remaining energy into my blade. The sword flew like an arrow, tearing through the heavy miasma straight toward that dark blue crystal. I drove the blade deep, piercing his chest and shattering the crystal. Right before my eyes, cracks began to spread across its surface, erupting in a blinding light. As the crystal shattered, his massive body crumbled into ash. I collapsed onto the ground, staring at the fading remnants of the Demon King. My emotions a tangled mess. Meanwhile, a new era was emerging from deep within the rifts, and I was falling into an endless loop of reincarnation, carrying the scars of the old world. Suddenly, a voice broke through. "Namsan Gate, Sector B, Yongsan District, Seoul, C-rank portal. Warning: C-rank danger. Recommended for C-rank heroes only. Civilians are strictly prohibited from entering. Yongsan District, Seoul. Warning: unregistered individual attempting to force entry into the portal." I stared at the warning sign, completely ignoring it. With a loud crash, I kicked down the iron barricade, snapping it in half. Instantly, the surrounding alarm lights began flashing wildly, blaring a deafening siren. But I didn't hesitate for a second. Resisting the powerful suction of the portal, I strode right into the glowing blue light. What greeted me on the other side was a silent, peaceful forest. "Hey kid, are you lost?" A gruff voice shattered my thoughts. I looked up to see a few people in official tactical gear walking toward me. A girl with a ponytail pointed at me and gasped, "Captain, look at what he's wearing." What kind of hero dresses like that? Even if he's just a porter, this is way too casual. He's probably just a discarded helper some hero party dumped. Another guy in the squad chimed in, laughing. So many idiots watch TV and think they can just stroll into a portal. It's practically a suicide mission. But I had absolutely no interest in their chatter. The bearded leader softened his tone, warning me, the monsters in a S-rank gate are no joke. You should start with F-rank portals first. I looked up and said, I get that you are trying to help, but don't bother. This place is no different from where I came from. My tone stunned them. The others flared up, wanting to teach me a lesson, but the bearded leader stopped them. Some people have to learn the hard way before they realize how brutal portals really are. This isn't some movie special effect. As I walked deeper into the forest, a sudden noise shattered the silence. I spun around to find a towering beast behind me. Thick mist hissed from its fangs as it swung a crude blade right at my neck. I sidestepped the attack with ease, then launched myself into the air, gathering immense power into my fist. A flash of white light erupted from my fingertips. In a split second, I struck severing its fanged skull into pieces. Honestly, it didn't seem like anything special. I stared coldly at the headless corpse and picked up the crude blade the orc had dropped. Back in my old world, this garbage wouldn't even be fit to sharpen arrowheads, but right now, it makes a decent throwaway weapon. Dragging the edge from its neck down to its chest, I sliced it open. A magic core, the size of a pigeon egg, rolled into my palm, glowing with faint magical energy. In my old world, these low-grade beasts were too insignificant to even notice. Now, I have to bend down for their tiny energy shards. Just as my hand touched my backpack zipper, the ground vibrated like muffled thunder. It wasn't a single creature, but the deafening roar of dozens of beasts trampling dry branches. 3 massive orcs crashed through the trees, the wind from their heavy blades stripping leaves from the branches. The orcs roared, thrusting their blades straight at the back of my neck. Even without looking, I easily dodged the strike. Tightening my grip on the magic core, I hadn't packed away yet. I whipped my arm forward. The crystal shot from my palm like a bullet, piercing the air and shattering the left orc's skull. Its head exploded, and a spray of dark blood. Seeing this, the remaining beasts roared in fury and lunged at me with their blades. Yet, even their most powerful strikes couldn't make me back down for a second. Meanwhile, on the other side of the forest, the group of heroes was making their way forward. The ponytail girl asked in a quiet, worried voice, "What if that guy actually dies out here?" A young man beside her shrugged. "Worried about him already." Her concern made the bearded leader sigh. He closed his eyes and said, "If he's an intruder, the Barank special forces from the control center should be arriving soon. Namsan Gate is a S-rank zone, so elite agents can deploy instantly. As long as he didn't stupidly charge straight into a horde of beasts, he should survive." But right now, I was staring at a terrified orc trembling in front of me. I slammed my fist into its face, effortlessly dodging another blade from behind. Leaping into the air, I landed right behind my target. With a loud smack, my size 48 slipper slammed hard into the back of its skull. As the final beast collapsed, I picked up my crude blade again, carving out the magic cores from their chests. Just as I was thinking this was a decent haul, a sharp shout from a man in a suit broke the silence. 3 men instantly closed in around him. The leader stepped forward and barked, "Namsan Gate Control Center, Special Tactical Unit. Show us your hero registration license immediately. Portal Control Center." I was slightly confused. The man spoke again, his voice cold. "Unregistered individuals entering a C-rank restricted zone is a violation. Under regulations, you must accompany us to the control center for investigation. I couldn't have cared less. In the next moment, I turned around and said, "Sorry, but I don't have time to waste on you guys." The leader immediately ordered a blonde agent to handcuff me. His voice shook slightly as he said, "Sir, please cooperate," before grabbing my wrist. "Any resistance will be met with force at your own risk." But in a split second, I twisted my arm and grabbed his wrist. The handcuffs clattered to the ground as he gasped in terror. "Stop bothering me," I said coldly. "Just go." Stunned by what just happened, the other two agents quickly drew their metal batons as runes flared on them, watching the white light and blue electricity crackle with magical energy. I recognized them instantly as level 4 restraint batons. With a simple twist of my wrist, I bent the blonde guy's arm down, making him shriek in agony. "This is your last warning," I said, my voice ice cold. "Leave now if you don't want to get hurt." As the blinding white light of a level 4 restraint baton lunged toward my face, I easily blocked it. The electric current hissed right before my eyes. The suit-wearing agent threw a sidekick, his shoe tip barely brushing past my temple. As the wind whipped my hair, I ducked, driving my knee hard into his ribs, with a dull thud. With a quick pivot, I kicked again, sending him flying like a broken ragdoll. The leader's pupils shrank in terror. As cold sweat broke out on his face, I turned my gaze to him. In a flash, I closed the gap, delivering a lightning-fast knee strike to his chest. He stumbled back with a groan, dropping heavily to one knee, the dry leaves crushing beneath his knee. "If you are this strong, why not just register as a hero?" he gasped. "You could pass through legally." I stared at his trembling body. "Register and live easy. But what if it's a rift?" So it turns out, this world is exactly like my old one. Countless monsters pour out of these rifts, but they also bring a new energy source. The magic crystals found inside them. Giant corporations are obsessed with this, sending endless hunters to harvest the wealth. At the same time, to protect civilians, the government seals off these areas under strict control. These secure zones are called gates, while the lawless, unmanageable ones are known as rifts. So, no matter which portal I enter, will I always be a wanted man? What crime am I committing by just entering a rift? I was done talking. I shoved my hand over his face, making him shiver in absolute terror. He must be a lunatic, he thought. Suddenly, with a dull thud, he tumbled backward onto the dirt. Watching my figure walk away, he let out a furious scream. "Next time I catch you, you are dead." Back then, as the Demon King decayed, his dark energy swept through like a tsunami. I heard the world's core shatter with a horrific screech. The sound pierced my ears like ice needles boring into my brain. As the bottomless abyss swallowed me whole, my only thought was, is this the death I earned after 10 years of bloody war? I don't know how long passed, but the falling sensation suddenly stopped, and I snapped my eyes open. I saw a strangely dressed man hovering right in front of me. "Who are you?" My voice trembled. The boy told me his name was Seo Do-jun, and he was dying. If I granted his last wish, he would give me this body. He offered me his body, but I refused without hesitation. As I stared at him, memories of my past flashed by. After fighting enemies for decades, my entire world and everything I knew had vanished. To me, simply staying alive was meaningless. Hearing my words, the light in his eyes dimmed, only to flare up again at the mention of 2 names. He did not want his grandmother and Eun-young to suffer because of him. Before his body dissolved completely, he pleaded, "Please, live on in my place. Protect them." At this moment, Seoul's Gasan Hero Center was in sight. I spotted a shop and walked in. A blonde-haired guy who looked like a cheap street thug greeted me. I plainly told him I wanted to sell some magic crystals. The moment I unzipped my backpack, a pile of blood-stained stones tumbled out, their surfaces still dripping with fresh wet blood. I casually sat down on the sofa. He wiped the blood off the cores while counting them up. Once he finished tallying them, the click of his calculator suddenly turned sharp. 12 low-grade, 16 mid-grade, and some lower high-grade ones. Minus our 40% commission, that is 5.6 million won. I instantly stood up and confronted him. Hold on. I did all the hunting, and you were just buying them. What is this 40% commission about? His smile instantly froze like a mask. Do you not know how things work around here? The standard commission is 45%, but we only charge 40. Not wanting to deal with him anymore, I reached to pack up the crystals. But the next second, his hand clamped down hard on my wrist. Appraisal fee is 30,000 won. Coffee is 10,000. Cleaning towel is 300,000. That is 350,000 won total. Pay up and get out. I shook his hand off instantly. I have no cash. Do your worst. But this blonde punk seemed to take me for an easy target. You think you can just walk away without selling? We have C-rank heroes protecting this place. Before he could finish, the back door was slammed open. A burly man walked in, asking what was going on. He glared at me. Is someone causing trouble here again? In a flash, the burly man collapsed toward the blonde. Within seconds, the three newcomers were sprawled unconscious on the floor. I stepped toward the blonde. The mere wind from my palm shattered the glass counter. How about a commission of 1%? I smiled at his pale face. Let us have a pleasant transaction from now on. Later, when a thick stack of bills hit the table, grandmother and Eun-young stared in utter shock and disbelief. Do-jun, where did this money come from? I smiled awkwardly, scratching my head. It is not what you think. I lent it to a friend who started a business. Grandmother looked highly suspicious. Do you even have a friend like that? After a long silence, I whispered, You know him. He is my childhood buddy from where I grew up. She stared at the cash and let out a deep sigh. Of course, I know. Eun-young suddenly leaped up, her cheers almost raising the roof. Wow, we are rich. We are rich. She fluttered around grandmother like a happy butterfly, her hair bouncing with pure honey-sweet joy. Looking at their smiles, a memory suddenly flashed back to me. Before waking up, I heard the voice of the real grandmother and Eun-young, please let them live in the safest house. When I opened my eyes, I was him. The safest estate in Korea costs 110 trillion won, although it was just his dying wish. When I think of the monsters from the rift gates in this world's paper-thin power system, everything here looks like child's play to me, the sword god. Even though I have recovered less than 1% of my true power, I am unmatched. Suddenly, a voice yelled from outside. Do-jun, are you in there? A loud, aggressive banging on the door cut off my thoughts. I got up and comforted them. Wait here a moment, I will go check. Outside, two thugs stood with their arms crossed. The blonde pointed a bony finger at me and yelled, Do-jun, you pay what you owe. That is how the world works, right? 48 million won is no small sum. I sighed deeply. A 5 million won hospital bill had been inflated 10 times by loan sharks. I have already paid back 9 million, I said, my voice freezing cold. In an instant, I threw a devastating punch that grazed the blonde punk's ear and slammed directly into the brown-haired man behind him. The sudden strike left the blonde completely paralyzed with fear. He turned to look at his collapsed partner, his hair standing on end as sweat soaked his back. I stepped closer and spoke deliberately. Tell your boss that I will be paying him a visit very soon. With that, I threw another punch. Later, at a downtown mall, Eun-young was staring happily at a stuffed rabbit, her eyes sparkling like stars. She kept asking if we could buy the dolls. Once I gave her the green light, she was overjoyed and began picking out toys. After a moment, she came back with a tiny plushie. I had already noticed her eyeing a cute teddy bear, but because of our poor background, she chose the cheaper one instead. Did I not tell you? You can buy whatever you want. My cold, hardened heart felt a gentle warmth. The original owner of this body cherished his sister deeply, and I intended to protect that bond. Just as we were about to grab some food, a sharp voice pierced the air. "Hold on, Do-jun. Is that really you?" I turned around to see a heavy-set woman walking up with 2 bald bodyguards. Her eyes sneered with hostility. "What is with your look? You dress like a total loser. And who is this brat next to you? Did you mess up like your mother did and get someone pregnant?" Seeing my silence, she smirked. "What are you, mute now? Lost your tongue?" She then turned her venom toward you. "Kid, do you even know what the word whore means?" That was when I finally spoke, breaking the suffocating silence. "You really are a filthy fat pig, are you not?" She snapped her head toward me in utter shock. In truth, Do-jun was an illegitimate child who grew up in extreme poverty. When he was 7 years old, his mother passed away, and he struggled to return to his father's house. In that home filled with discrimination and contempt, he endured decades of misery. But once his father got the legitimate son he wanted, Do-jun was completely abandoned, forgotten, and kicked out once again to live with his grandmother. With his sister. After going through all of that, how strong did his heart have to be to still smile like that? But from now on, everything changes. I stared directly at the disgusting woman in front of me and said, "You are still as brainless as ever. You have not changed a bit, and your actions are still revolting. You are clumsy, slow, and terrible at everything. You are deeply insecure around other women, unable to stand anyone prettier or kinder than you. Keep your filthy thoughts away from you. You filthy woman." My loud words drew the attention of everyone around us, leaving her red-faced and furious. Just then, a glamorous, elegantly dressed woman walked over. "Do-jun, it has been a long time." Seeing her, the fat woman ran over with open arms. "Mom, you have no idea what this bastard just said to me." "He actually stands still. You look ridiculous," the elegant woman interrupted sharply. She turned to me with a fake, warm smile. "Do-jun, how have you been lately? Even if you are busy, you should visit home sometimes." This venomous snake of a woman was the one who had hurt the original Do-jun the most over the past 12 years. Yet here she was, playing nice. "Your father worries about you. You should visit." But I spared her no dignity. "Cut the act. You disgust me." Her face darkened instantly. Embarrassed and unable to maintain her facade, she turned to leave, wondering to herself, "Is this really the same Do-jun I used to know? The kid who used to take beatings and stay quiet?" The fat woman quickly ran after her. "Mom, wait for me." Watching them leave, I knew that the old Do-jun who quietly endured their abuse was gone forever. I hope they realize that soon. Meanwhile, inside a luxury car, the fat woman was still complaining endlessly. "Mom, why did we leave? You should have taught that punk a lesson. You have no idea what horrible things he said to me." The elegant woman ignored her whining completely, turning to the bald man in the front seat. "Manager Lee, why is Do-jun still alive?" He scratched his head, replying, "According to reports, Kang Chol-woo left him inside the gate. Then why? Why is someone who should be dead still breathing?" She hissed in rage. "He was supposed to die." Hearing this, the fat woman's eyes widened in horror. "Mom, what do you mean? Were you trying to kill Do-?" But the elegant woman ignored her, asking coldly, "Do you still like Do-?" The fat woman's face flushed red as she stammered, "It is not what you think." But if grandfather or father finds out before she could finish, the woman pinched her mouth shut. "This is my business. Keep your mouth shut." Her heart burned with pure hatred. "How dare you talk back to me, you filthy thing. I will get rid of you no matter what." 10 years ago, a massive rift tore through the sky. crackling with black lightning. It was like a demonic abyss, spitting out monsters. Normal humans stood no chance, slaughtered mercilessly by the beasts. But then, heroes emerged. Like beams of dawn piercing the chaos, they used blades and magic to seal the darkness. From the monsters' remains, humans extracted glowing mana crystals. This pure energy source quickly replaced coal and oil as the ultimate global resource. Nations built new defenses in this energy race, and every industry revolved around the gates and heroes. Now, to truly rise and survive under the harsh neon lights of this world, one must step through the gate and become a hero. Right now, I was standing in front of a run-down metal door. The moment I pushed it open, a cloud of smoke hit my face. The 2 debt collectors I beat up a few days ago were standing behind a man. The boss sneered arrogantly. What kind of punk beats up my men and walks right into my den? I remained perfectly calm. Actually, I am the victim here. I believe you owe me compensation for my mental, physical, and material damages. His smirk vanished instantly. Staring at me through his dark lenses, he studied my demeanor. Thinking to himself, has his personality completely changed? Since he easily wiped out my men, he must have awakened inside the gate. Despite my change, the man in sunglasses was not intimidated. He stood up. It seems you found whatever gave you this new confidence. I should teach you what happens to people who act tough in front of me. He clapped his hands, and several burly men burst through the iron door behind him, looking at me with sneers. The man in sunglasses scoffed, looking down on those who thought their tiny awakened powers made them special. You are still just low-grade trash. Let me tell you, I have plenty of guys like you working for me. They can scare garbage like you into silence. Sit down. My calm voice made the boss look back in confusion. I do not think I finished speaking yet. Hearing this, a burly thug rushed at me. Hey brat, how dare you talk to the boss like that? In the next instant, I stopped his punch with just 2 fingers. With a loud crack, I smashed my fist into his face, sending him crashing through a dry wall like a broken doll. Before the others could react, I turned to them. So, you guys run a lone business, right? I needed a hero's body as a cover. Ducking, I dodged a punch and countered with a swift uppercut. In just 2 minutes, everyone around me was flat on the ground. I need you to create a flawless identity for me, I said. You have exactly 1 day left. What he just witnessed had the guy in sunglasses breaking into a cold sweat. What was that power? He's not D rank. C rank. Maybe even B rank. The man instantly straightened up and squeaked out a yes. I reached out and pressed his shoulder. I just remembered something, I said. Did Hong Hee-joo send you to kill me? Her face flashed in his mind, but within seconds, he was screaming in absolute agony. Completely forgetting about keeping his mouth shut, he begged. Yes, she wanted your debts to drive you to suicide. Please, mercy. I let go of his collar. So that's why you dumped me at the dungeon gate to rot. He slumped to the floor, shivering. Leaving you at the gate? I knew nothing about that, I swear. After a moment of thought, I realized Kang Ju-it was that bastard who dragged me there. Leaving him behind, I turned and walked out. As I stepped outside, Seo Do-jun's final plea echoed in my head. Please, keep Grandma and Eun-young safe. What an idiot. But since I took over his life, I'll see this through. The next day, I pulled out my B-rank hero card. I swiped it. The scanner flared with blue light as the massive steel gate ground open. Instantly, a synthetic warning blared. Hero registration card confirmed. Current rank is below the recommended safety standard. Proceed at your own risk. I muttered a curse. That damn mob boss couldn't have forged a higher rank. stepping right over the flashing warning lights. I looked up at the metallic plaque hanging over the tunnel entrance. Island Gate. B rank. Terrain. Tunnel. Recommended party size. 2. A cold smirk played on my lips. Suddenly, a foul wind whipped through the dark. Massively thick, emerald green pythons burst from the ground like pillars, hissing and dripping corrosive venom. Perfect timing, I muttered. Summoning my bone claws, I braced myself as dagger-like fangs lunged at my face. A flash of red, and a core was in my hand, planting a foot against the thrashing scales. My claw sliced through the beast like hot knife through butter. The massive snake was sheared clean in half. Looking at the sizzling venom on my gauntlets, they were holding up better than expected. But then, a dozen more slithering nightmares squeezed out of the shadows. Their fangs gleamed like scythes in the dim light. Still, against pure, overwhelming strength, they were nothing but target practice. Every swipe of my claws tore through dark green flesh, until the final serpent collapsed. I drove my claws straight into its weak spot. If the drop rates were the same as my past life, there was only a 3% chance for a mana stone. Time to clear out 100 more. Moving deeper through the toxic mist, I finally found the boss. A pair of massive, glowing emerald eyes stared back at me. This beast was 3 times larger than the others, with venom leaking from its scales and eating away at the stone. Let's get this over with. Tossing my pack aside, I leaped into the air and smashed my fist directly into the Serpent King's skull. Shattering its scales, I slipped past its whipping tail, channeling raw power back into my fist. With a loud crack, its armor shattered, but as expected, a simple punch wouldn't finish it. Reaching down, I grabbed a rusted, broken sword, resting near the bones. It was in terrible shape, but for this thing, more than enough. Wrapping my fingers around the hilt, a familiar energy surged up my arm. The strength of a weapon depends entirely on the one wielding it. With one clean slash, the blade shattered, but it took the beast's head right with it. I sliced open the carcass and examined the dripping fangs. A bit on the short side, but they would make excellent daggers after some proper refining. Still, I really thought I could speedrun this B-rank dungeon. It took way longer than expected. Back at the shop, I dumped the mana stones onto the counter. The young clerk whistled. High-quality stuff, as usual. Same deal as before. Take a 40% cut. I frowned. 40%. That's highway robbery. He shrugged, counting his cash. Actually, we're cheap. The official guild takes a 5% flat fee, but they keep paper trails and tax you. We keep it completely off the books. I had to admit he had a point. True. But what the hell happened to your face? The kid sighed, looking miserable. Some psycho beat me up and forced me into a terrible deal. Even our resident heroes couldn't stop him. The man smirked. Told you ranks are useless. It's about real combat. Newly licensed security guards can't compete with those of us putting our lives on the line. Ranks are just for bureaucrats anyway. He gave a knowing smile. We've been doing business a while. Call me if you need backup. With that, he walked out, brushing past me as I walked in. The clerk froze, then suddenly leaped up, pointing a trembling finger. That's him. He's the bastard who beat me. The hunter at the door stopped and turned, his aura instantly turning hostile as he sized me up. So, you're the punk causing trouble? Don't you know heroes aren't supposed to touch civilians? The clerk sneered. Remembering this hunter had 7 years of experience, I let my gaze drop, giving him a look that was cold as ice. You want to try and avenge him? A sudden, icy shiver ran down the hunter's spine. His survival instincts, honed over years of hunting, screamed in warning. Actually, my wife's in labor. Gotta go, he bolted, leaving the clerk completely stunned. Before he could react, I tossed a heavy pack of mana stones onto his counter. Wait, this grade? These are high-rank stones. The blinding glow made him gulp, his mind going completely blank. Snapping out of it, he frantically grabbed a calculator. Staring at the glowing crystals, his hands began to shake. This is 1.5 billion won, he stammered. I crossed my arms, unimpressed. An entire day of hunting, and that's it. The clerk opened his mouth to mention commission, but swallowed his words under my glare. I sighed, letting my aura fade. Right? A 1% fee? Correct? The kid swallowed his anger and nodded. For anything over 100 million won, I need manager approval. He quickly dialed his boss, stuttering as he tried to explain the massive transaction. He kept casting terrified glances at me. Growing impatient, I snatched the phone from his hand. You heard him tell him to pay? Before the boss could reply, I flicked the phone away. It whistled right past the kid's ear and shattered as it embedded itself deep into the drywall. The clerk's knees buckled. Before walking out, I offered some friendly advice. Think twice before you play games next time. 10 minutes later, a burly man burst in. Why did you hang up? The boss demanded. What's going on? The clerk's lips trembled. Boss, I quit. I'm out. Staring at the broken phone sticking out of the wall. The boss pulled out his mobile and dialed a private number. Looks like we need to call in some professional cleanup, the boss muttered. Suddenly, the door opened. A purple-haired woman in a white coat walked in, her long hair swaying. The clerk gasped. A 4-star hero. Eun-young, what are you doing here? She crossed her legs elegantly and rested her chin on her hand, an intense pressure instantly filling the room. My uncle mentioned a rogue hero causing trouble over some mana stones, she replied calmly. Mind explaining the situation? Back in my room, I sighed. 12 hours of brutal dungeon crawling, and I only cleared 100 million won. In this harsh world, that chump change won't keep us afloat for long. To survive here, I need to be strong enough to solo S-rank dungeons. I need a breakthrough, and fast. But this world is different from my past life. The ambient mana in the air is incredibly thin. Gathering enough energy could take 3 years, maybe more. Higher gear would speed things up, but top-grade equipment costs a fortune. Even the absolute garbage gear in this world goes for hundreds of millions of won. Suddenly, a violent tremor shook the floor. Instinct kicked in, and I grabbed Eun-young, pulling her close. Grandma, get under the table. Now. Before the words even left my mouth, the ground beneath us began to buckle like boiling water. The sky ripped open, revealing a pitch-black void that swallowed all light. Arcs of purple lightning crackled inside like the fangs of a massive beast. I shoved Eun-young toward Grandma and bolted outside, heading straight for the rift. The energy radiating from the rift felt identical to the cataclysm that destroyed my previous world. Simultaneously, emergency alarms blared through the Soul Hero Association. Staff stared in horror at their holographic screens. SG energy detected. Rift level classified as special grade. The commander shouted, barking orders to his team. Get the White Lion Guild to lock down the sector. Evacuate civilians immediately. No one gets near that rift. Sir, internal energy levels are off the charts, and an unregistered awakened just went inside. The commander slammed his fist down. Idiots! If an uncertified civilian dies in there, the rift will completely collapse. Go out of control. In a corporate office, a woman slammed her folder onto the desk. Kang Jae is useless. He should have dealt with that kid already. Her manager warned her to fix it, or face a massive penalty. Actually, we might not have to, a bald subordinate mumbled, wiping his brow. The latest rift opened, right over Seo Do-jun's apartment. He went inside. A cruel smile touched her lips. Perfect. Problem solved. Now we just watch. The moment I crossed the threshold, the world shifted. I stood in a dense forest, overwhelmed by a wave of familiarity. It was unbelievable. This was the Patasua forest, the very place I had spent my entire past life, my domain. Every single inch of this place perfectly matches my memories from my past life. The moment I step onto this familiar path, my heart rate spikes. I just know it. Standing right ahead has to be the legendary world tree. It was an ancient beacon of the purest mana, but it collapsed during that devastating fire. That disaster tore the world's magic apart and brought everything to ruin. Yet here I am, watching it stand tall and stubborn, still rooted deep. What a miracle. It actually survived a disaster that wiped out everything else. With its power, my strength will recover much faster. The man sat cross-legged before the ancient tree, letting then 3 days quietly slip away. Time dissolved in the flowing mana. Forgetting hunger and thirst, he completely synced his mind with the rhythm of the ancient tree. On the 10th night, under the cover of darkness, several humanoid silhouettes cloaked in deep blue flames began creeping closer. They were the same monsters from my past life that burned down the world tree. If only I had a water elemental sword right now. But it does not matter. I will crush every single one of you. My mana surges like a tidal wave. It gathers in my hand, erupting in an invisible blast. One beast drops instantly. The rest freeze, paralyzed by my raw pressure, too terrified to take a step. How long has it been since I burned through mana like this? Suddenly, they open their fanged jaws. Deep blue flames shoot toward me like poison daggers, only to fizzle out the moment they strike my mana barrier. The world tree is safe for now, but before I do anything else, I need to wipe you garbage off the face of the earth. Before their roars even fade, I flash right in front of them. I clap my hands, and the resulting shockwave shatters 2 of their heads. Their bodies dissolve like melting wax, leaving a single, crimson mana stone resting in the ashes. Since I took such good care of you, it is only fair you leave me a gift. I charge into the horde without a shred of fear. Your fire is called the eternal fire, right? Body after body burns away. But these mana stones are dropping way less than I remember. Standing before the world tree, I look down at the loot scattered in the ashes and smirk. Just how many of these can you drop? Suddenly, my fingers brush against a familiar warmth. The embers of eternity. I pick up the pulsing golden light. My heart skips a beat. I cannot believe I made such a rookie mistake. As the light shatters in my palm, golden flames seep through my fingers and pool in my hand. Drawing more magic from the tree would be ideal, but my current body cannot handle that much. Raw energy. The only option is to absorb these embers, converting my mana into a fire attribute. In my past life, I never needed external embers to make myself stronger, but now, it only takes 10 minutes to absorb one. I must take in as many as possible to turn this fire into my new weapon. Meanwhile, the rift in the sky expands like a living beast, with news cameras locked onto the tear. All because of that reckless lunatic. Ban Chengguo grumbles, his face tight with irritation. Jing Shinyu tries to calm him down, suggesting the guy just wanted to save his family. Family. That is just a selfish excuse, the muscular fighter sneers. He awakened long ago and went in alone, ignoring everyone. If he dies in there, the whole rift will go wild. Who takes the blame then? Jing Xianyu sighs, pointing out that other countries secured their simultaneous rifts. Almost instantly. We are already the slowest. Ban Chengguo roars. It is all because of that useless trash. If he comes out alive, I will tear him apart myself. 28 days have passed since the rift opened, and the association has sealed a 10-kilometer perimeter. They need to stop the intruder's death from triggering a full-scale outbreak. The news report cuts off as Wang Chonghai closes his tablet and rests his chin on his hand. That guy is Seo Do-jun, right? His top assistant, Jin and Guo Ba. Yes, boss. My men confirmed it as him. What do you think his chances of survival are? Wang Chonghai sneers. Jin and Guo shrugs. If he is just a normal guy, there are no chances. 1%? No, not even close. I doubt he has even a 0.1% chance. A normal guy? Wang Chonghai laughs like a maniac. How ridiculous. Is the Hunter Association's intel really that outdated? He pauses, his eyes sharp as daggers. What if he isn't awakened? Jininguo replies calmly. If he isn't awakened, it depends on his rank. Honestly, it is hard to say. Wang Chonghai leans back. Life is unpredictable. Still, being a good fighter and surviving a rift are two completely different things. What is the plan then? Jininguo asks. Wang Chonghai grins maliciously. Keep an eye on his family. If he dies, harvest and sell those two weaklings' organs. If he makes it out, we tell him we protected them to earn a favor. At the heart of the world tree, rich mana surges like the ocean, tide as flames, rage around the man. How long has it been? I mutter, watching a golden flame dance in my palm. Hundreds of eternal embers have been completely absorbed. Fire magic comes naturally to me now, and my heat resistance has skyrocketed. My mastery of flames icily eclipses my past self, the legendary sword god. I gently touch the rough bark and whisper, whether in the past or now, you have helped me so much. Thank you. The pouch woven from vines is packed with high-grade mana stones. Taking one last look at the towering tree, I turn away. We might never meet again, but if we do, and you are in danger, I will protect you. No matter the cost. Under the silver moonlight, a figure steps out of the rift. I scan the area. Not even a single sign within a kilometer. They completely locked this place down. Suddenly, my eyes flash. The energy fluctuation over here is off. Using building shadows for cover, he spots two people in uniforms identical to the guys from the last portal incident. Getting caught would be trouble. I quickly condense fire in my palm and hurl it toward the sky. It streaks like a meteor, slamming into a distant height. An explosion rocks the air. What was that? A fire? The two guards bolt toward the blaze. I watch the inferno rage in the distance, a quiet smirk on my face. Its heat and accuracy are not bad. For a second, a memory flashes in my mind. I murmur softly, wondering if this refined flame would impress you. After all, you were the strongest fire mage on the continent. Suddenly, Jing Xianyu freezes. His heart skips a beat as he whips around toward the rift. What is it? Ban Chengguo frowns. The rift is disappearing. They sprint back in panic. As the tier closes, I make my choice, glancing back with determination. Breaking news. The special grade rift in Mapari has vanished from the capital. Reports confirm the first person to enter was a young man, and the Hunter Association is hunting for him. According to reports from the Cordon Zone, an unexplained fire broke out in a nearby junkyard just as the rift closed. A man looks up at the screen. That guy probably died in there. A bystander sneers. Serves him right. When a rift opens, you run away. That is just basic common sense. If it had stayed open, all of Seoul would be a battlefield. Listening to them talk, I realized that if I had really died in there, I would never see the world tree again. But maybe this is for the best. I look up, reminding myself that I still have people to protect. The dilapidated building comes into view. In the stairwell, two thugs blow heavy smoke, the one in yellow spitting on the floor. That old lady and the kid are done for too. The other thug agrees, of course they are. Look who our boss is. We will squeeze 10 times the value out of them. The first one raises his cigarette, grinning. That little girl, she is going to grow up to be a real beauty. Suddenly, my voice cuts them off. Hey, I say, radiating cold, lethal intent. Where is your boss? Meanwhile, Hwang Chang-hai steps out of his luxury car, humming a tune. He runs a comb through his hair, slicking it back. With that kid dead, I can finally sleep soundly. He turns to his assistant, asking about the schedule. Jin and Guo checks his planner. Lunch meeting this afternoon. Free tonight. Then call Mrs. Kang. Tell her I am coming over tonight, and make sure the new girls dress up. Yes, boss, Jin and Guo replies. As they walk toward the office, a body suddenly drops from above, splattering blood right before them. Wang Chang-hai collapses to the ground, staring up at me in absolute terror. Crawl over here like a dog, I order. He shakes violently, sweat dripping down his face. Did you not hear me? Wang Chang-hai looks completely petrified. You trash, like this does not deserve to be treated like human beings. He throws away his pride, crawling and barking like a dog. I look down at him. When you were plotting to stab others in the back, you should have known that you would get stabbed one day too. How should I handle a rat like you? He drops to his knees, begging in terror. Please, spare me, I will be your most loyal dog. Shut up, you piece of trash, I snap and kick his jaw. Wang Chang-hai collapses in agony. Hey, Four Eyes, from now on, you are the boss. I assume you will not go around biting people like he did. Jin and Guo hesitates, but our boss has a lot of connections if I take over. They might not accept it. Sweat pours down his face. If you could just spare him this once, throwing people into the ocean too. Feed the fish is your specialty, is it not? If you refuse, I can always throw you into the portal as monster food instead. Everyone freezes in terror. Hwang Chang-hai bangs his head on the floor, begging. I swear I will be your loyal dog. Listening to him beg, damn it, I actually hesitate. Is my heart getting soft? Fine. I reach out my hand. He exhales in relief, grasping it with a trembling grip. Still rambling about how he will handle everything I need. Suddenly, his pupils shrink as flames erupt from my palm. His screams reflect in my eyes. Remember, this is your last chance. The moment the fire dies down, his charred hand crumbles into ash. Hwang Chang-hai clutches his stump in agony. Before walking out, I look back. If anything happens to my family, even a single scratch will doom you to die in endless agony. So protect them with your very lives until your final breath. The official announcement is already out, stating that the special grade rift and the intruder vanished together. The Hero Association, along with N major media outlets, have officially added Do-jun to the casualty list. I scroll through the news notifications on my phone. Even if I told anyone I made it back alive, it would probably just cause trouble. Besides, Chang-hai will find a house soon, and then we can move. Yunin is happily munching on a burger, practically vibrating with excitement about moving. When he asks, I reply casually, yeah, soon you can go to kindergarten like other kids. Hearing this, his smile instantly fades. Caught guard, I ask. What's wrong? Do you hate kindergarten? He mutters gloomily. They'll make fun of me for not having parents. My heart aches. How did I overlook something so simple? Then you don't have to go, I tell him. No need to deal with them. We'll just wait and start elementary school next year. Really? I don't have to go. He beams. He cheers, and I smile, though in my head I'm wondering if I should send him to an elite private school where nobody would dare look down on him. Flashback to the building hallway. I'm confronting Kim Young. Leaving a grandma and a kid in some motel? Have you lost your mind? He breaks into a sweat, stammering that the motel is company-owned and completely secure. I cut him off, opening the door. Eun-young gasps in surprise, and Grandma rushes over to grab my hands, crying about how glad she is that I'm alive. Looking at this warm scene, I realize it's been ages since I've known this kind of warmth. Yes, I'm back, I reply. Yunin looks up and asks, "Are you a hero to Hugh?" I counter, "Do you want me to be one?" But his answer catches me off guard. No, I don't. Why? Because heroes have to fight scary monsters, and I don't want you to get eaten. In my past life, I was always a solo fighter. The concept of family was buried long ago. Meanwhile, inside the towering headquarters of the Korean Hero Association, the association's founder and world leader, Taiwan demands in a deep voice, "Why is there still no useful information?" His assistant replies with difficulty, "We haven't found anything yet." The man looks out the window at the nightless island, the rift that vanished without a trace. "Will surely reappear one day," the assistant mutters. "With it disappearing like this, it might have been better if it just went out of control." "Watch your words, nah." Taiwan snaps, turning around as his aura flares. "Do you even know what you're saying?" The assistant hostilely apologizes, full of regret. Taiwan is currently one of the world's top 100 strongest heroes. It is said that if he wanted to, he could easily become the president or a corporate tycoon. But his focus isn't on power or wealth. It's on protecting the public and controlling the rifts. Taiwan orders his assistant to take all the time she needs to get results. She nods, adding that the residents near the rift agreed to sell their homes. Excellent. Raise the price so they don't lose out. He wants to make sure the affected citizens are well compensated. Scanning the markers on the holographic map, the man remarks, "This rift appeared in other countries simultaneously, didn't it? Something feels off." Puzzled, the assistant replies, "Aren't country N and country Z already managing theirs?" Taiwan nods. "Yes, but the problem is abroad, where all the top-tier heroes have already been deployed to other rifts." Suddenly, a red alert flashes across the screen. That's impossible. The man stares in shock at the emergency broadcast from the World Hero Alliance announcing that a rift in the UK has gone completely out of control because of a red stone. Meanwhile, a man's attitude toward me has done a complete 180-degree turn. It turns out a mana stone I casually tossed aside was actually the legendary, priceless hero's mirror. Just 2 hours earlier, on the city streets, I was walking back to the exchange shop I visited before. As the door chime rings, the young clerk opens his mouth to welcome me, but instantly freezes in. Absolute terror. He immediately looks over to the man reading a newspaper for help. Slowly, the man puts down his newspaper. "So you're the punk who's been bypassing our prices while I was away." I calmly drop my backpack. I have a lot of mana stones to process today. I was actually hoping to deal with someone higher up. The man glances at the bag and scoffs, assuming I brought more unrefined, low-grade stones like last time. I look him dead in the eye and ask again. The man waves me off. "You don't get it, kid? A 1% commission would ruin us." I sigh. "You'll regret this." The man just scowls, muttering about how even the main gate centers charge a 5% fee. He points to the exit. "Don't ever show your face here again. Grab your bag and get the hell out." Unfazed, I simply give the bag a gentle nudge with my foot. Dozens of high-grade mana stones spill out. their brilliant blue glow instantly capturing their attention. The young clerk and the boss freeze in absolute shock. How is this possible? And nestled among them is that legendary, priceless hero's mirror. Crossing my arms, I tell them, well, if you don't want them, I'll take my business elsewhere. As it turns out, the hero's mirror became famous after a Mexican cartel boss refined a special mana stone, unleashing its power to trigger an awakening. Under their stunned gazes, I bluntly tell them to pack it up because I'm leaving. The boss's attitude instantly flips. He beams, calling me an esteemed guest and begging me to take a seat. While the young clerk nervously polishes a gold container, I sip my cold drink. Listening to his pitch, the boss sweats, asking if a 0.5% commission is a bit too low. I don't waste time. I stand up to leave. Terrified of losing the deal, he keeps slashing his rate until I finally agree to the original 1% commission. Checking my phone's deposit notification, I do some quick math. At this rate, buying that 110 trillion won house is well within reach. But the real challenge is sourcing more high-grade mana stones. Just cleared gates won't cut it. If only I could freely travel between rifts right then. Every phone in the room blares with an alert. I glance at the emergency notification. Has an overseas rift gone out of control? Staring at the breaking news on my screen, I can't help but sigh. This defensive system really is incredibly fragile. In my past life, I would have rushed to stop the rift collapse, no matter where it was. But in this life, I'm only living for myself. At the restaurant, steaks sizzle on the grill, filling the air with a mouth-watering aroma. Yunin is already drooling, though Grandma is still hesitating over the steep prices on the menu. I gently tell her to relax, assuring her that I've accumulated plenty of wealth. Beside me, Eun-young can't wait any longer and stuffs a piece of grilled meat into his mouth. His eyes light up with pure, blissful satisfaction. As we sit together, sharing laughs over the meal, a striking figure suddenly cuts through the crowded restaurant and stops right behind me. Seo Do-jun. The sharp call immediately catches my attention. The woman before me has a solemn look, asking if we can speak in private. Before she can even finish, I cut her off. Can't you see I'm eating? If you want to talk, wait until I'm done. Stunned into silence, she thinks to herself how someone like her, Eun-young, has never been dismissed like this by any man before. Still, she bites her tongue and complies. Sitting quietly in the waiting area, she draws hushed whispers from the crowd. Is that Eun-young, the S-class hero and global superstar? Curious eyes lock onto her, with everyone wondering what kind of powerhouse could make the legendary Eun-young wait. Meanwhile, Eun-young is lost in thought. 2 months ago, this man survived his first trip into the gate. Based on that timeline, he must have awakened right then even, though the officials declared him dead. In that rift incident, how can someone who awakened only 2 months ago make an S-class hero like herself nervous with just a glance? Can he really be S-class already? He must possess some kind of unique ability. Just then, the restaurant door swings open. I step out, smiling and thanking the staff. I turn to address Eun-young, but a massive shadow suddenly blocks my path. My eyes narrow instantly. It's none other than Kang Chul-woo. Smirking arrogantly, he sneers. Am I seeing things? How the hell did you walk out of that gate alive? I thought you were a bug, but you're a goddamn cockroach. Eun-young gasps in surprise, but I completely ignore his existence, and simply turn to Ru. You said you wanted to talk? Cholu's eyes dart between us. What is this? I tell Eun-young, we'll talk later. For now, do me a favor and get my family home safely. I have a debt to settle. Outside, Eun-young helps Yunin and Grandma into a car. Seeing them drive off safely, the last bit of restraint, holding me back, vanishes. With a swift flick of my wrist, I land a backhand. Chul-woo's face instantly swells, and he boils with rage. "You damn bug." A waiter runs out to defuse the situation, but Chul-woo violently slaps him to the ground. "Get the hell out of here," he roars. "You want to die, you bastard?" Before he can finish, I strike forward like a lunging blade. Pure, devastating power explodes in an instant. Chul-woo drops to his knees, clutching his face. I clench my fists as a suffocating murderous intent fills the air. "You're the one who threw me into that gate to die. Right? I think you and I have a lot to discuss." Recognizing he has nothing left to hide, Chul-woo sneers. "You're just a bastard discarded by your own father. Your stepmother paid me to kill you." Unfazed, I pull out my phone and start recording. Care to repeat that? Snarls of rage escape his mouth as searing flames ignite across his fists. "Go to hell. You want to talk about that bitch stepmother? A bug like you belongs under my boot." Searing flames roar toward me, but I simply raise my palm. A protective barrier, dense as the one that blocked brink, pushes Chul-woo back, shattering his momentum. He gasps, frozen by the shield. Before he can react, a concentrated gust of mana erupts from my palm like a gale-force wind. He is launched backward, and the instant he hits the ground, I leap into the air like a black panther. The chaotic clash has a terrified waiter dialing emergency services, but Eun-young gently takes the phone away. With a reassuring smile, she says, "Don't worry, I'll handle this." Though uneasy, the waiter bows in gratitude. Meanwhile, inside Chul-woo is desperately screaming under the relentless barrage of my fists. Watching the brutal beating, Eun-young's heart races. Chul-woo is a solid beakless hunter, yet he's completely helpless in my hands. Is he a class, or higher, she wonders. But can an A-class really crush a B-class like this, Mr. Seo Do-jun? Eun-young rushes forward, shouting to stop me. "If you keep going, you're going to kill him." I cast a cold sideways glance, slowly shaking out my knuckles from the intensity of the fight. "How much do you actually know about Chul?" Eun-young opens her mouth again, and I briefly look back. "Does it matter?" She sighs deeply. Of course it does. Chul-woo's older brother is the S-class titan. Expecting shock, she's met with a flat, indifferent response. "I know," I reply. Eun-young can only stare in disbelief, thinking he knows. And yet she gave me a look like I didn't care about anything, thinking I was completely reckless. But she still warned me that Kang Chul-woo only got this far because of his brother's backing. "What you did was extremely dangerous," she said. I didn't bother explaining myself. I just smiled. It took her a second to recover. "Aren't you afraid of him?" she asked. "Maybe you just don't know me yet." Later, at a barbecue spot, we stared at each other until she finally admitted her uncle sent her. She wanted every single mana stone I had. Looking at her serious look, I told her I was holding a massive stash. She leaned in, saying an S-class hero's wealth surpassed her imagination. I agreed instantly, but with one condition. A condition you can easily meet. Meanwhile, in another room, a woman roared, smashing a bottle. "Why?" "I thought he died in the rift." The bald man facing her didn't even flinch, calmly explaining the situation. "The Hunter Association did officially declare him dead." "Don't give me excuses. How are you going to fix this?" Before she could snap back, he added, "Word is, Kang Chul-woo was already targeted for revenge. He might have leaked something." From Chul-woo's mouth. Her face darkened instantly. "Damn it. If my father finds out about this, it's over. We have to stop it." She ordered the bald man to make sure the news media stayed completely quiet about it. He assured her it was already taken care of. She sighed in relief, praising him. But the bald man pressed on. You know that's just a band-aid. That's why I'm here. You see, Chol-woo's older brother is Kang Young's. Whispering the name, she instantly broke into a cold sweat. The Kang Young so I know. See, Chol-woo was notorious trash among hunters. While the public believed his brother adored him, the truth was far uglier. Cho-woo was just a disposable tool used to clean up Young-so's dirty work. If the cops or media cornered him, it would threaten Young-so himself. They were bound to act. The woman nodded coldly. Set up a meeting with him. And Hwang Chung-hyap from HCS Capital reportedly betrayed me. Contact Prosecutor Park now. They have to pay. Currently, 37 rifts have been discovered in Korea. 5 are active, while the rest are heavily regulated. These rift zones can only be raided by licensed association hunters. Once the gates verified S-class hunter Eun-young's identity, our group headed straight for the portal. Walking with them, I knew I made the right call. Jung and Ryu looked at her with pure curiosity. It's rare for Captain Yoon to suggest a rift raid. Yoon-juhan played it cool. I just had some free time. But her eyes darted back to me, remembering our deal. She remembered my term. Get me inside, and I'll sell you all my mana stones at market price. She thought I was crazy, but honestly, she desperately needed those stones, whether her uncle wanted them or not. Who is that guy anyway? Jung and Ryu teased. Your new boyfriend? Yoon-juhan sighed. He just owes me a favor. An S-class hero owing favors. Before they could laugh, the entire squad suddenly froze, sensing danger. They drew their weapons. Out of the shadows, a raptor with razor-sharp metallic talons lunged directly at us. Juhian shouted. But before anyone could even move, I bolted forward like a cheetah after its prey. The crowd gasped. In a split second, massive mana channeled into my fist, as eternal flames erupted around my knuckles. I unleashed a single, devastating punch straight into the beast's skull, sending it crashing hard to the ground. Looking at the lifeless beast, I nodded. Yep, that's how you put him down. Jung In-ru finally snapped out of her trance, frantically whispering, Who is that guy? Johan jaw dropped, could only mutter, someone incredibly powerful. In-ru shook her head, trying to process it. But wait, sis, couldn't you take that thing down too? Her dramatic gestures made Ju-hyun look at me in a new light, wondering who I really was. In-ru whispered. Sis, we need to change plans. Let's head straight to the core zone. Meanwhile, I slowly drove my dagger into the beast's belly, telling Ju-hyun bluntly, I don't share loot with anyone who didn't help. She suggested, I try going deeper. I chuckled. Now we're talking. She turned, bragging that she knew this area like the back of her hand and could lead the way. Before taking off into the deep rift, as she sped off, I launched myself right behind her, leaving nothing but cracked earth in our wake. If her speed was a bullet, I was pure light. One of the squad members watched us vanish, completely stunned. Sis, do we follow them? No way we can keep up, In-ru replied. We're just side characters. Let's stick to the edges. Staring at the massive carcass, they realized an A-class hunter is basically dust to an S-class. Deep in the rift, Ju-hyun looked back and saw nobody. Just as she went to slow down, I materialized right behind her. Can't you go any faster? I asked. She stumbled, nearly wiping out in pure disbelief. She was ranked second in the country for speed, yet here I was calling her slow. You look so confident about leaving me behind, I teased. Her face flushed red as I looked up at the distant peak. What's up there? I asked. She followed my gaze. That's the boss's lair. It's a massive pterodactyl-like dragon. They estimate it takes at least 3 S-class hunters to take it down. Is that the beast that drops high-grade mana stones? I took a step forward. Joseon stared at me, horrified. You aren't seriously going to fight it, are you? Before she finished, I was gone, leaving only a gust of wind. Panic seized her as she bolted after me, desperately trying to stop my reckless charge. But when she finally caught up, she froze. What on earth just happened here? The colossal dragon lay dead, its blood pooling across the cavern. As blood pooled around us, I calmly drew my dagger to carve out the mana stone. This dragon was a nightmare. Even the famous S-class hunter Park Hare, who built his entire reputation on it, struggled immensely. On his first try, he brought 30 A-class hunters. Every single one of them was slaughtered, leaving him to escape by the skin of his teeth. Later, he returned with another S-class and 100 A-class hunters. They unleashed everything, but couldn't scratch the dragon's armored scales. A single roar from the beast scattered them like leaves. Though they eventually killed it, they paid a devastating price. Losing 90% of their force, his massive guild, Sweet Home, was crippled and failed to recover its former glory, even after 3 years. I turned back to look at the speechless Jo-hyun. You do know you didn't help with this, right? If she hadn't seen it, she'd never believe this terrifying dragon fell to me in a single strike. Holding the massive mana stone, I realized I didn't need a guide anymore. I was ready to explore solo. Aren't you going to take the dragon's remains? She asked. The scales and claws are incredibly valuable. I stopped, looking back with a shrug. Those are worthless to me. I'd rather spend my time hunting actual mana stones. You can have the leftovers as my guide fee. She flushed, insisting she didn't need charity. Meanwhile, back near the rift entrance, the rest of the crew stood in complete silence, staring at a giant backpack on the ground. After a long silence, a hunter spoke up. That guy borrowed a massive backpack earlier and brought it back completely stuffed with mana stones. Our entire guild works 3 days for this amount. He did it in hours. Who is that guy? It isn't just about speed or loot. He doesn't even wear armor or a combat suit. Taking down this many beasts solo is something nobody in the entire world can do. Just as Eun-young was marveling at the feat, I walked back carrying several more heavy sacks of mana stones. Everyone stared as I dropped them. Nobody is going to believe this. How did he get even more? Eun-young quickly ordered everyone to keep quiet, knowing people would just call them crazy. Before anyone could say more, Jo-hyun walked up to me, whispering awkwardly. They might think we're actually dating, or that only a guy like you is worthy of me. Eun-young watched in IDU, shocked someone could treat the great Yoon so casually. While they gossiped, I tossed a heavy sack of stones right into her hands. Why is he walking away? Eun-young asked, baffled. He's leaving all these stones behind. Jo-hyun sighed. He thinks fame is too much trouble, so he's letting us deal with it. Eun-young shook her head. Unbelievable guy. How does a man like him even exist? Yeah, I get that a lot. Meanwhile, in a soul gym, a man was brutally hammering a heavy sandbag, making the massive sack swing violently under his fists. With a deafening pop, his fist tore the sandbag open. Damn it! How did the great Park Hye-ryul, leader of a giant guild, an S-class hunter, fall this low? His assistant quickly bowed, trying to soothe his anger. If you can just endure this, your reputation will soar even higher. Wiping his sweat, Park Hye-ryul nodded. You're right. I'm going to teach everyone who looked down on me a lesson they'll never forget. Exactly. When the time comes, they'll be begging on their knees. Besides, nobody knows how to handle the Caserion dragon better than you. They'll eventually come crawling back to you. Park Hye-ryul took a bottle of water. Nobody knows that beast like I do, he muttered. But compared to 3 years ago, our guild has shrunk so much. Still, I am the only one who can successfully raid that dragon. The assistant nodded in agreement. He is a wild talent, all right? Aside from the chairman himself, nobody else could pull this off. Laughter kept echoing from the training hall. Is this the guy? Seo Do-jun. Kang Young-so skimmed the file, while the suited man beside him nodded quickly. Yes, sir. A few months ago, Kang Cho-woo threw him into the gate to get rid of him. Before he could finish, Young-so cut in, yet he survived, and even awakened in that hell. The suited man continued his briefing. Our client is Hong Hee-joo, executive director at Shi-tae Group, and second daughter of W Group. A silver spoon heiress. What is she playing at? I heard Seo Do-jun, a Shita's illegitimate son, brought back home at age 7, but 6 years ago. After she had her own son, she threw him out. He is her blood, too. High society is brutal. How much did Cho-woo make on this contract anyway? Hearing the man say 3 billion won, Young-so scoffed at ruining himself for pocket change. Severely burned, blinded, clinging to his last breath. Brutal. If it were me, I would have chopped off his limbs and left him a torso. There are also rumors that Eun-young helped Young-so's golf swing went completely wide. Why would she help that kid? What is their connection? The suited man watched him lean in, breaking into a cold sweat. Well, about that, Eun-young already gave her statement to the police. That is how the dust settled. Under the man's terrified gaze, Young-so grabbed his collar. Find out right now. What is their real relationship? The suited man scrambled away on shaking legs. Understood. I will get to the bottom of it. Young-so's rage boiled over as his golf club snapped under the pressure. Damn it. Hong Hee-joo will probably call me soon to clean up Cho-woo's mess. Still, since she is a tycoon's wife, the payout should be massive. Under the streetlights, I quietly weighed my gains. Hunting in the rifts is way more efficient than inside the gates. But do I really have to rely on Eun-young to get in and out from now on? Our conversation flashed through my mind. If we sell Delian's magic mirror, the media will swarm us for details. So she wants to keep it quiet. But she won't stop me if I want the fame. Instead, I just tossed the magic core into her hand. Maybe I can find another way to train. For now, I just want to rest in the new apartment. Hwang Chang-sik set up for me. But as I approached the door, I noticed extra shoes. The moment I opened it, Eun-young screamed. Suited men were crowding around Grandma and Eun-young. Terrified, she ran to me, crying. Their leader calmly revealed who they were. Turns out they were from the Seoul District Prosecutor's office. A blond man stepped up and asked if I knew Hwang Chang-sik. He then declared they were placing me under emergency arrest for allegedly participating in Hwang Chang-sik's illegal loan shark business at HCS Capital. Now, inside the Seoul Prosecutor's office, I sat in the interrogation room. Hands tightly cuffed behind the chair, scanning my Park Chuleong took a call as he walked into the observation room. Don't worry. I have both Hwang Chang-sik and Seo Do-jun in custody. Please send my regards to Director Hong. Cleaning up this societal trash is my duty. After all, a thick file slammed onto my table. Speak. What kind of dirty business were you running? The charges in here alone will get you more than 10 years. He was using fabricated evidence to force a confession. My only response was cold silence. My stare instantly annoyed him, and he roared, "Do you think this is a joke?" But he froze the moment I spoke a single sentence. Was it Hong Hee-joo who put you up to this? He immediately played dumb, denying any connection to her. Perhaps they already broke Hwang Chang-sik. I only came along quietly to avoid a scene, but now he was losing patience and about to use force. But the killer instinct radiating from me made him freeze. Cold sweat drenched his back. Yet, Whether it was foolish pride or sheer stupidity overcoming his fear, he raised a heavy hand, ready to slap me, but a sudden knock stopped him in his tracks as the door swung open. "Officer Park, we need you to verify this." From the hallway, a shocked shout echoed. "Impossible. Is the machine broken?" Even after confirmation, he was in total disbelief. Why did the hunter detector show I was just an ordinary human? The subordinate quickly stuttered. "We don't know the cause. Maybe there was an error in the system." Sweat began to inside the room. I stared at the file. This country's system is incredibly corrupt. Maybe I should just wipe them out and take Grandma and Union away. But then, the door opened. It was Eun-young. "Don't do anything stupid," she warned. She wanted to talk me down. So I asked, "Are you going to help me then?" "It is not exactly helping," she said righteously. "If an innocent person is framed, we have to correct it," I sneered. "The Hunter Association will definitely investigate." "And what about my family?" My question cut her off. She looked annoyed, as if I was treating her like an assistant. But under my serious gaze, she grew flustered and quickly gave me her word. "My family is safe, so I can relax." Finally, my mind was at ease. "Thanks. I will return the favor." She blushed, telling me to bear with it for now while she handled it. Turns out, her plan was not to prove my innocence directly, but to expose Prosecutor Park Chul-young's bribery and get him fired. The official investigation cleared me of any wrongdoing, while I still face charges for unlicensed activity. Ju-yan's fierce defense secured me a suspended sentence. Just then, a news broadcast in the car caught our attention. A new monster had appeared abroad, a four-eyed mantis with insane leaping power. Hearing the description, I muttered, "It is a Maxion." Ju-hyun gaped in shock, wondering how I knew a classification only top association officials had access to. You see, these monster names are not random. The core inside them carries signature energy. Once analyzed, details about the beast are unlocked. Earth uses science, while the ruined world uses magic. This means if a monster exists in both worlds, I already know everything about it. Right then, I decided to reveal its weakness. A Maxion can be easily neutralized using red flower ant secretion. Seeing her confusion, I explained that, while harmless to humans, it acts as a powerful paralytic on Maxion. Once splashed with it, they are completely helpless. Ju-han finally voiced the question she had been holding back. "Who on earth are you?" As the sports car tore down the highway, my silence only made her ask again. Finally, I spoke up. "What if I kill Hong Hee-joo?" Inside the Shita Group executive office, she chewed on her nails anxiously. The bald, suited man standing before her fell silent. "How did it end up like this? Why did you and Jushan get involved?" The man was equally puzzled. "We are still not clear on that." "What is her connection to That is Eun-young. We are talking about what is going on. And what do you mean Do-jun is not a hunter? Did he not awaken?" "On paper, he did. We can only assume he has some ability that bypasses the hunter detector," the bald man explained under her murderous glare. Hit with setback after setback. A ruthless look flashed in her eyes. "Contact Kang Young-so immediately. 30 billion won. Get it done now." "I cannot do 30 billion. I want double." Young-so reclined on the sofa while his assistant looked puzzled. "Isn't that a bit too much? You do not get it. Once this is resolved, she won't care about 60 billion. Besides, for an S-rank level incident, this price is totally fair." The assistant broke into a cold sweat. Ju-yan was indeed a dangerous opponent. Young-so slammed his heel down. Do you think all S ranks are equal? A weakling like her. I can take her out in 20 minutes. Shaking with fear, the assistant quickly changed the subject. Right. Did the association reply? Still trembling from the outburst, he continued. Since the situation abroad has worsened, and they cannot increase the bounty, the association announced they will dispatch select elites. Those bastards. When do we leave? In 3 days, alongside the Japanese hunters. Maxion, a new monster with no known weakness. If I can find its weakness, my value will skyrocket. Cut to Cambridge. A massive mantis-like beast was tearing through the city streets. Although the task force was fully prepared, looking up at its colossal size, they could not help but break into a cold sweat. It swung its scythe-like claws, their sharp tips piercing toward them. The solid stone ground shattered. They quickly dodged, rushing fearlessly toward the monster. While from behind the mages gathered dark energy in their hands and launched a direct hit. Meanwhile, those nearby seized the opportunity to swing their greatswords, aiming for its head. With everyone working together, the beast finally collapsed. Its mantis-like head was severed. Completely exhausted, they let their guard down. Then, a team member looked up at the high. Dozens of identical monsters were staring back at them. Damn it. Why are there so many? The man screamed as a scythe-like claw lunged straight for his head. Similar horrors were unfolding across the entire district. Faced with these unknown beasts, the local defenses collapsed, and the Cambridge line broke completely. The terrifying beasts marched straight toward the capital. Just then, a faint mist filled the air. The giant mantis-like monsters suddenly froze as if petrified, crashing heavily to the ground. Up above, an armed helicopter sprayed the red flower ant secretion directly over them. In the crowd, Eun-young gasped in shock. It is actually real. The people around her kept praising her. This is incredible. Even Kang Young-so nearby was completely stunned, as the rooster showers them with red floral shadows and mysterious Eun-young stands shocked in the crowd. It's actually real. The onlookers shower her with endless praise, calling her incredible, while even Kang Ging-xiao beside her is left completely stunned. How is that possible? How did he know? His voice snapped her back to reality. A drawn sword gleamed with a cold light. Soon, at the international airport in Seoul, South Korea, reporters from major media outlets gathered at the exit, quietly waiting for the returning heroes. Did you hear? Im-ru-han was the standout performer of this expedition. She is truly an S-class hero. They say she discovered Maxion's weakness, which made the hunt so easy. Media outlets are even reporting that a foreign royal family will grant her a knighthood. Look, she's coming out. It's Im-ru-han. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, she walked forward, as reporters swarmed, asking how she found Maxion's weakness. And Mr. Kang Hyung-so, please say a few words. We heard you hunted down the most monsters. Major media outlets broadcasted the news live. The key to hunting Maxion was using the secretion of red flower ants to move and spray from the air. Standing in front of the building, I watched the news. Looking at the smiling face on the screen of Kang Hyung, a cold gleam flashed in my eyes. I looked at the gifts pushed in front of me, holding my coffee in confusion. Ryusu quickly explained that the first two were for Eun-young and Grandma, and the last was for me. Feeling her awkwardness, I opened the bag. This outfit looks pretty expensive. Hearing this, she said it was just to thank me for my help. She insisted that my warning was the only reason she became the hero of this operation. Compared to the rewards she received, these gifts were minor. And she added that she could even buy me a car. But I refused. Hee-joo still looked puzzled, wondering how I knew Maxion's weakness. Is that a question I have to answer? My cold response stopped her from pressing further. She then shifted and started asking about my future plans. Honestly, her only goal was to stop me from going after Hong Hee-joo and Kang. I told her I should probably buy a house first, which caught her off guard. So, you're still renting? She asked, looking completely baffled. Inside a luxury mansion, a wild party was underway. By the pool, a woman slowly handed a drink to Kang. His face was dark. Him-Ruion seems different lately. How on earth did she find out Maxion's weakness? Was she hiding her strength all along, or was there something else? And forget about Maxion, what is going on with Seo Do-jun anyway? Kang Hyung-soo recalled his conversation with her on the plane, asking if she really chased off the prosecutor just to save that kid, and if she was there when he ruined Cho-woo. She defended him, saying Cho-woo started it by hiring hitmen. Even if it was attempted murder, he picked the fight. Hyung-soo sneered, saying Cho-woo was an idiot who deserved it for chasing pocket change. But since he was still his brother, he had to get revenge. He was met with Im-Ruian's cold, indifferent eyes as she turned away, telling him she wouldn't get involved. He wondered if their bond was really that weak, and if she would stay out of it. No need to get involved, she said. But it must be Seo. That kid is definitely hiding something. Meanwhile, in a region of England devastated by a monster outbreak, heroes rushed to gather as many magic crystals as possible before the next wave hit. The Foreign Hero Association dispatched a large force, one hunt aside, saying, if we had that red flower and secretion, even the ranks like us could hunt His teammate agreed. Yes. If only they had stopped the rift outbreak early, and stopped the outbreak. This place would have been perfect for gathering high-grade crystals. But once a rift erupts, it is impossible to close. I heard the second wave won't have Maxion, but other monsters. Yeah, that is exactly how some countries were wiped out, and met their end. Suddenly, the teammate whipped his head around. He got a strange feeling, as if someone was about to step out. But the last wave was only 5 hours ago. Come on, snap out of it. It is probably just civilians trying to steal some magic crystals. Before he could even finish his sentence, the rift violently shuddered, leaving them both completely terrified. A metallic-plated humanoid monster bathed in a crimson glow stepped out from the erupting rift. Its sharp, piercing eyes radiated a suffocating killing intent. No. Wait. Look at his clothes, and Scarshi is definitely not a hero. Quick. Call headquarters immediately. Beneath the monster's sharp claws, thorny halos materialized, wrapping around the two men and lifting them up as if they lost all weight. Damn it. One of them threw several flying swords straight at the creature, but they were useless against the overwhelming pressure of the halos. You are too weak, the monster sneered, clenching its right hand as the halos tightened around their necks. They shrieked in agony as the monster raised its claw, crackling with dark lightning. Raw energy surged to its fingertips. Suddenly, a mysterious system status screen containing strange data materialized right in front of its eyes. Looking at the display, 10 years must have passed on this side. How has not even 20% of my power recovered? Did the process fail? After all the trouble to trigger this rift? I guess I will need to raise the mana concentration first, before doing anything else. A cold sneer curled its lips as the corpses beside it suddenly exploded. But before that, let me wipe out these weaklings who are lesser than bugs. Meanwhile, walking slowly across the vast, quiet fields, I silently monitored every single vibration in the surrounding area. Are they here? The ground beneath my feet shuddered violently. Several massive, worm-like monsters burst from the soil, tearing the earth around me to shreds before diving back underground. I stared down into the massive tunnels they left behind, placing my hand flat against the nearby dirt. I immediately sensed there were 26 monsters within a 100-meter radius. Let's see how many of you can survive this. Scorching flames surged in my palm, a simple-looking spark carrying the power of the unquenchable. Eternal fire. As the seconds ticked by, the tunnels left behind by the worm monsters erupted one after another, like miniature volcanoes spewing charred, shattered corpses everywhere. Watching this spectacular scene unfold right before my eyes, I couldn't help but let out a quiet chuckle. Meanwhile, inside the South Korean Hero Association headquarters, Taiwan questioned his deputy, asking what kind of man he was. Probably a very difficult kid to handle, Hong Hee replied, adding that the boy even personally confirmed he is indeed a hero. But didn't they say the hero detector couldn't scan him? We don't have enough data to explain that yet. Hearing this, the association's vice president, Park Seung, roared that this kid was too arrogant and should just talk when asked. Taewong raised a hand, instantly silencing him. Taewong asked if there was any other intel. Hearing his question, the deputy laid out the limited facts they had. This all started because of Kang Cho-woo's attempted murder, when he threw Seo, a regular human at the time, straight into the rift. But Seo Do-jun survived the ordeal and unexpectedly awakened his powers. After that, he cleared the new Maple Rift all by himself and exacted his revenge on Kang Cho. While his actions are slightly extreme, it is confirmed that he possesses overwhelming power over other heroes. He seems like an untamable wild horse, but a magnificent one at that, Taewong muttered, lost in thought. He even applied for official S-Class registration, requesting to bypass the usual red tape, with his guarantor being none other than the S-Class hero, Imru. The deputy's report left the association executives completely stunned. Meanwhile, I casually stared at the special license in my hand. South Korea's 8th S-Class hero. Thanks to this, I can finally hunt in the rifts as I please. As I please. Hearing the deputy's report, Taewong burst out laughing. He headed straight to the Paju Rift, right after receiving his license. That is some incredible initiative. Wait, did he go in alone without any guild members or proper equipment? Special gear, entering a level 2 rift completely by himself. Is he insane? The other two stared at the ignorant vice president in silence. Park Seung-shil realized his outburst was uncalled for, but his mind was quickly clouded by greed. If that kid Seo Do-jun makes it back alive, we should reveal his identity and promote him. After all, he is our nation's 8th S-Class hero. That might not be his wish. Deputy Min. Shouldn't we ask him first? In times like these, having another S-Class will bring peace of mind to the public. Don't you agree, President? Taewong was silent for a moment before speaking up. I understand both of your views. I will go meet him myself. Meanwhile, a massive worm-like monster wailed beneath my feet. Dozens of other similar-sized beasts roared as they lunged toward me. I calmly watched their movements, using my hand as a hilt and the eternal flames as a blade. In the blink of an eye, dozens of monsters were sliced to pieces right before me. Falling back to earth, heat radiated from my hands as the sliced carcasses of the giant worms rained down right behind me. Staring at my burning hands, I watched the fire fade along with the receding mana. My mana consumption was indeed still too high. Too high. I definitely need to prepare some proper weapons. Walking into the Gasan Hero Weapons Center, I saw a clerk completely focused on his game. I shoved my heavy bag onto the counter, saying I wanted to make a weapon with this. He told me they were fully booked and to go somewhere else if I didn't have an appointment. I replied that I heard they were completely packed. The clerk looked up and snapped that they were indeed busy with no time for me. But as he spoke, I grabbed him by the collar, making him shriek in terror. I demanded he call the boss out right now. Sweating, he scampered to the back room and yelled for his dad. Choi Chul-gwan walked out, demanding to know who referred me. I calmly dropped the name of the S-Class hero, Imru-heon, leaving them both stunned. Before the old man could even doubt me, I pulled the raw materials from my bag, leaving him completely speechless. Beside him, Choi Chul-gwan stared in shock, calling it the fang of a giant venomous black serpent. Since he hadn't seen this material in ages, I told him to make me a proper longsword. But the old man hesitated, arguing that using non-metallic material would make the blade too fragile. He suggested 2 medium swords instead. I asked if he was just admitting he lacked the skill. I told him to connect both fangs into a long sword and maximize its mana absorption. My demands set the young man off. The weapons my dad makes are at least grade 3, he roared. Ignoring his shouting, I reached over and grabbed a display sword off the shelf. Looks like a grade 5 piece of junk to me. I gripped the hilt and squeezed the sword, glowed intensely, bending like rubber under their horrified stares before shattering to pieces on the floor. They stared down at the ruined display. I told them if they only knew how to make trash like this, then I would take my business elsewhere. My words left Chul-gwan silent. As sunlight hit the one-eyed beast, it snapped awake, unsettled by the energy in the air. It let out a deafening roar. Still, as noisy as ever, I muttered, taking a slow step forward. A blazing fire ignited in my hands. With a simple sidestep, I easily dodged its massive foot. The flames rapidly condensed into a crimson sword, and I slashed down hard against the beast's heavy armor, filling the air with its painful screams. It ripped a tree trunk from the ground and hurled it at me. With a single slash, I sliced the flying log in half and charged straight ahead without losing momentum. The one-eyed beast watched in pure terror as its body was ripped apart by my crimson blade. The instant the slash flashed, I had already dashed behind it. Its mana rushed to the wound, completely regenerating the slice in the blink of an eye. I swung my fire-infused hand and leaped behind its back, striking a vital pressure point. The mana trigger went off, sending the beast into a howling frenzy as if burning alive. I swung my flame sword and severed its neck, leaving a thin trail of red light in its path. The giant, headless corpse collapsed right beside me. Keeping up that mana sword is always exhausting. I let out a sigh, pulled a glass bottle from my pack, and began harvesting a few liters of blood from the monster's heart. My reflection showed in the glass bottle of dark blood. By evening, I was back at the weapon shop with my haul. I set the blood before the blacksmith. With this, we can easily fuse the 2 fangs. Under his puzzled stare, I turned and walked out. The basic materials were set, but to boost its mana absorption, we still needed one last key ingredient. Only one place had it. Meanwhile, by a quiet swimming pool, a ringing phone startled Yin. Juyin. Awake, she was completely baffled as to why I was heading to Redwood. 2 figures lounged by the pool. Jungju and Yinjuyin. They were discussing the association's plan to deploy heroes to Redwood. Jung In-ju took off his sunglasses and said, "The association's payout is actually pretty good. So our guild decided to take the job." He looked at Yin. "You should bring that guy along. Is he really the rumored 8th S-rank hero?" Word is, the two of you are secretly dating. Eun-young quickly denied it. Jung and-ju hugged her, teasing, but I saw the two of you with my own eyes. After his endless begging, she finally gave in. Eun-young sighed, though I don't even know if he will go. Meanwhile, the old blacksmith stood completely stunned. How can non-metallic materials fuse together this perfectly? He wondered how I knew about the Cyclops' blood. Make it a two-handed greatsword, but shape the hilt so I can swing it with one hand. The old man had thought I was just some clueless rookie. He frowned. 5 kilograms is a bit heavy for one hand. And the mana absorption will only top out around tier 7. I gave him a firm nod. Tier 7, I doubt that can handle my full power. Guess, I really need that other item for this to work. Just build the frame first, and I will bring the other materials later. Choi Chel-guan was left speechless as I walked out of his shop. Over in a downtown parking lot, a luxurious Rolls-Royce was waiting. I thanked the driver, and Eun-young softly replied that it was no big deal for her, though it was highly valuable to me. My profile made her blush. I carefully inspected the car. It was something I had never seen in my past life. And my reaction left Eun-young completely speechless. The association tried to expose my identity, so I warned them off. She stayed quiet as I got into the car to test the controls. She finally spoke up. The association is in complete chaos over the Redwood situation. Once things settle down, we can have a proper talk with the president. Our arms brushed together as we spoke. Are you going to? My voice near her ear made her face flush, bright red, her mind going completely blank. Come with me, I said. Those words sounded almost like a marriage proposal, leaving her blushing madly. Meanwhile, Hong Hee-joo was furious, demanding to know how much more the man wanted. Kang Young-so replied that the money was still a bit short. The woman deeply regretted ever hiring people like them. Kang Young-so let out a sigh. For 30 billion won, I'll give you some free intel. That guy is actually an S rank. A sharp, greedy glint flashed in the woman's eyes. That little brat is an S. Under her highly skeptical gaze, Kang Young-so slowly stood up. Before he could reach the door, her trembling voice stopped him. Is Seo Do-jun really an S? She shrieked, panic starting to set in. I will give you all the money you want, just get rid of him. Kang Young-so gave a sinister smirk. It is not just about the cash. If we became business partners, I might consider it. The woman agreed, eyes filled with murderous intent. Kang Young-so. Hong Hee-joo broke out in a cold sweat, terrified. Kang Young-so carefully read the text on his phone. Looks like heaven is on your side, he said. As she stared in confusion, his face darkened. The perfect chance to kill Seo Do-jun. On the private jet flying to Redwood, news outlets broadcasted the mission live. 5 S-rank heroes were deployed, including Jang Seung-ho, backed by the top conglomerate, and Park Hae-ryul, the legendary hunter who took down Caserion, and of course the national hero Eun-young, the ruthless and greedy Kang, and Mecharia's mysterious 8th. Right now, Kang Young-so was closely watching my every move as I sat there, casually slurping down instant ramen. While everyone else prepared for battle, the plane was already nearing Redwood. Meanwhile, inside the Redwood Hero Association headquarters in St. Paul, a high-ranking official marveled at Korea's extreme efficiency. Out of all the nations, the Korean team was the very first to arrive on the scene. Some of their heroes didn't even drop off their bags before diving into action. The man looked grim, worried they might discover that classified piece of information. The chief replied that secrets never last, but they just needed to keep it under wraps until the mission ended. Everything would be fine. The rapid string of disasters made the man sigh deeply. Frontline reports confirmed a Redwood S-rank hero had been slaughtered by an unidentified entity. Security footage showed it wasn't a monster at Outlet, was clearly a human. But why would a human emerge from inside a rift? What was actually going on in the rift zone near? As he fell into deep thought, a commander in the frontline base was busy briefing the newly arrived support heroes. Eun-young was highly confused about why I had vanished right after landing. It turned out I had already transferred flights, heading toward a much more distant target. She was shocked at why. Would I go to the most dangerous zone completely alone? The commander's briefing was finally wrapping up. He assigned rift sectors to the heroes, bringing the briefing to a close. Stepping outside, Eun-young grabbed her bag and headed for a cab. Just as it was about to pull away, Kang Young-so blocked her, demanding to know why she was leaving before the operation even started. Eun-young ended up telling him her destination. Watching her taxi speed away, he was deeply confused. Why was she heading to a place even the local association feared? At the Santarin Rift Zone, Eun-young and her team rushed over, trailing close behind me. She demanded to know why I was in such a massive rush, complaining that if I had just shared the details, they wouldn't have been left waiting. Under her endless questions, I finally revealed my actual goal. Eun-young was utterly shocked that such a simple, ridiculous reason was why I dragged her all this way. Behind us, Jung and Ju watched the two of us argue, silently marveling at how that maybe I was the only person alive who could play Eun-young like a fiddle. Other team members were anxious, wondering if it was safe to enter the rift. Assured by his peers, he still wondered who the rookie next to Eun-young was. Couldn't help but laugh. Rookies have tears, you know? If it is Do-jun, he might be the strongest rookie in history. They watched us argue with growing doubt. Eun-young then turned to ask if I planned on sealing off the entire area. Why would I seal it? I came here for materials. I'm going to squeeze this entire place dry. Suddenly, metallic claws lashed out, their immense weight making a frontline defender sweat. A spear-wielding teammate shouted to warn everyone to get ready for battle. But he couldn't help but shake with fear. These beasts were far more terrifying than the intel suggested. The panic was spreading rapidly until a sudden voice cut through the air. Under everyone's gaze, I drew the sword hanging from my waist. Before we left, Choi Chul-guan had given me his prized blade to make harvesting the wolf monsters hard easier. The sword seemed to sense something, vibrating violently in my hand. Gathering my strength, I dashed straight at the beasts. In a mere flash, I broke through and stood behind them. Their bodies seemed frozen in place, but a second later, deep cracks split their metallic skin. Overloaded with wild energy, they shattered completely. In the crowd, some gasped, while others stood in absolute shock. How could I be this ridiculously strong? Deep inside the Santarin Rift, the team gathered around a campfire, still marveling at my skills from earlier. A man quietly whispered to his teammate in the Caserion Rift. Even S-Rank Park, Hariel barely escaped with his life. Yet Do-jun took that monster down in a single blow. Just then, Eun-young walked up from behind, asking me if the wolf monster's heart was already processed. Was ready. As you can see, I said, pointing to the crates behind me. Seeing me go to all this trouble, she wondered what I was planning to do with it. Then, she looked at the campfire. What kind of meat is that? I've never seen blue meat. My blunt answer left her dumbfounded. We had packed plenty of high-quality rations before coming here. So why on earth was I eating wolf meat? I casually popped a piece into my mouth. If you don't want any, don't eat it. Seeing the beast meat sizzling in my mouth, even Jung In-ju was amazed by my absolute boldness. He wondered why I would eat this when we had tons of normal food. I just picked up another piece from the fire. Out of curiosity, even Eun-young wanted to try some. Just because I said it was edible, S-Rank Hero Eun-young trusted me without a single doubt. Her reaction left Jung In-ju completely floored. She slowly put the meat in her mouth. Huh? That's strange, she murmured. The aroma was incredible. Chung In-gu edged closer to me by the fire, leaning in to whisper. He was dying to know how I had managed to charm Eun-young. Since she had never shown this kind of interest in any man before, in my past life, I never lacked There were noble ladies at the Imperial Academy, the brilliant young princess of the Leslian family, and even the woman who fought demons by my side. But my walk down memory lane was suddenly cut short, shattered by Seeing his endless curiosity, I smirked and offered a simple explanation. Maybe it is just my natural charm. My response left him utterly speechless. He stood there, frozen, completely cringing at what had to be the most awkward thing he had ever heard. Let's look at what was happening elsewhere. While In-ju teased Ryuhyun, a man in St. Paul was reporting to Kang and In-hyuk was baffled. Why were Ryuhyun and her team rushing to the Holy Tower before their mission had even begun? To make matters worse, she was with me, and the other S-class heroes were operating alone. The rift near St. Talon had zero value, and the Redwood Kingdom had declared it a suicide zone. Anything involving me seemed completely unpredictable and highly frustrating to them. Over the phone, Hong Hee-joo was losing her mind, demanding to know why In-hyuk had not acted yet. It turned out my grandfather, the powerful head of our family corporation, was already watching him. Panicking, she screamed at him to speed up. If he failed again, she warned, he would not see a single penny. Looking at the rugged terrain map, the man made a grim promise. Don't worry, he assured her, that bastard Do-jun is never making it back alive. He then marked the map and ordered his men to contact Goji immediately. Meanwhile, Ryuhyun and I were pushing deeper into the rift. The maps warned that we were entering highly dangerous territory, a nesting ground for incredibly cunning magical beasts, called lynx. When I muttered that they were here to end you, looked at me, confused. As I started walking ahead alone, he sighed. He knew I would do this, just like back in Caserion, but he did not stop me. Instead, he handed me something. What is this? I asked. He explained. They were earplugs to protect me from the beast's hypnotic cries. Keep them, I replied, walking away. I do not need them. He watched my receding figure with growing anxiety, while I casually waved him off. As night fell over the forest, Ryuhyun was still worrying about the earplugs. Suddenly, a dark figure caught my eye, perched silently on a high branch. Bathed in the pale moonlight, its sleek, shadowy body was revealed. It was a lynx demon fox. Fear gripped the group instantly. In-ju screamed at everyone to cover their ears to block out the hypnotic noise. But while they panicked, I remained completely unfazed. To me, that beast in the distance was nothing more than a one-shot target. The lynx threw its head back and unleashed a deafening shriek. Everyone covered their ears in agony, including the S-class hero Ryuhyun. Yet, she looked up to see me standing there, completely unaffected, watching the beast with a calm, indifferent gaze. She was shocked. How was I resisting the sound without even covering my ears? Ignoring her stare, I calmly picked up a stone. In an instant, a spark of eternal, unquenchable fire erupted from my palm, wrapping the pebble in blazing heat. I flicked my wrist, launching the stone like a screaming meteor. The blast shocked my trembling teammates. Before they could even process what happened, the wounded lynx shrieked and bolted into the shadows. Without hesitation, I gave chase, leaving them behind. As I raced after the beast Ryuhyun, and In-ju scrambled to keep up, utterly bewildered by how quickly the fox's cries had been cut short. They finally caught up to find me standing still, staring at the canopy ahead. A whole pack of lynx foxes glared down from the branches. but I stood my ground without a hint of fear. Among them was the one I had injured. Snarling, its eyes suddenly flared with an eerie, hypnotic light, aiming to paralyze us. My teammates froze in terror. Even Eun-young, an elite S-class hero, was caught in the beast's hypnotic spell. But before the fear could take root, I reached out and covered her eyes, shattering the connection. Standing behind her, I whispered, "Don't look. Their eyes paralyze your mind." It was crazy how a simple glance could disable top heroes. Seeing her struggle, I added, "You are compromised. Just close your eyes and rest." Meanwhile, my energy began to surge. I channeled my mana, wrapping my blade in a searing, brilliant fire. Was this my limit? Not even close. The crimson sword flared with a devastating heat. As my entire aura shifted into pure flame, ready to unleash the kaleidoscope style. Initiating the technique, a massive ring of fire and a scorching spear of light materialized above me. First form of the kaleidoscope style, I slowly raised my glowing crimson blade and pointed it directly at the swarming pack of monsters. The concentrated heat gathered at my blade's tip, sending a wave of raw terror through the beasts. As the fiery orb swelled with raw mana, my allies watched in sheer awe, terrified by the sheer destructive pressure radiating from me. Under their stunned gazes, my eyes flashed with power. In a fraction of a second, I unleashed the gathered firestorm. A blinding, sun-like explosion ripped through the pack of lynx, making the once terrifying beasts look utterly insignificant. A torrent of molten fire surged deep into the woods. Eun-young and Ryuma could only watch, completely shell-shocked by the devastation. Standing there, I felt like a dividing line between reality and a living hell of consuming flames. Across the scorched earth, countless charred beasts littered the ground. Cold sweat poured down my teammates' faces as absolute shock overwhelmed them. It seemed impossible to them that anyone could possess such terrifying, godlike power. Yet, one heavily wounded beast still clung to life. I walked toward its broken body, my gaze cold. It tried to use its hypnotic glare on me one last time, but with a swift flick of my wrist, my sword silenced it forever. Its severed head rolled away. Why would such a weak thing think it could challenge me? I knelt down to extract its eyes, knowing they would come in handy later. With the threat cleared, my team began heading back. Let's face it, my team, that battle was absolutely insane, completely breaking their understanding of human limits. They looked at me with newfound reverence, whispering that my skills might have already surpassed the legendary elf. Some even wondered if I was on par with Kang, the strongest hero in the world. But our rest was cut short as a sickening bubbling sound echoed from the nearby lake. Dozens of snarling zombies began clawing their way out of the water. My teammates scoffed at the brainless ghouls as they lunged at us. I didn't even draw my sword. Step Punsha clean hit caught the lead zombie square in the face, completely obliterating its skull in an explosion of dark rot. Flowing seamlessly into my next moves, I tore through the horde. Rotting bodies exploded, limbs and heads flying through the air, as my strikes left gaping holes in their chests. With a satisfying crunch, I crushed the last skull under my boot. Once again, they stood frozen by the show I'd put on. Ryuma quickly caught up to me, her voice pulling me back to reality. She demanded to know where I had learned such incredible swordplay. I looked at her, amused. "Do you want me to teach you?" I asked. She blinked, suddenly hopeful. "Can I actually learn it? Honestly, in this peaceful world, this deadly style is completely useless." I told her flat out, there is no point in learning it now. She flared up, snapping that if I didn't want to teach her, I should just say so. She thought I was looking down on her, but when our eyes met, she blushed and looked away. Eun-young, sick of the romantic tension, finally cut in. "All right, let's head back through the rift," Eun-young announced. As we made our way back, I noticed him looking back thoughtfully. He knew that without me, they wouldn't have survived unscathed. Fueling his quiet determination to get stronger next time. But as we stepped through the portal to exit, a harsh roar echoed from the other side. "Are those the Japanese bastards?" Everyone froze. Eun-young pushed past the crowd to see what was happening, and the sight left him completely stunned. I was currently holding a blushing Ryuma tightly in my arms. Standing right in front of us was a menacing man holding a massive butcher knife at S-class hero. Ryuma, Ryusu. He was the guild master of the Imperial Guild. Born from the underworld, he glared at me, sneering. "Beat it, kid. Get out of my face before I crush you like garbage." "Are you talking about yourself?" I replied. My blunt response shocked Ryuma, who looked at me like I had lost my mind. Honestly, I was a little confused myself. Did the original owner of this body know him? I wondered. Ryuma's face contorted in rage. "What did you say? You piece of garbage?" His lackey stepped up, screaming at me. "How dare you disrespect our boss? Do you know who I don't care?" I interrupted. Suddenly, the heavy pressure of 3 S-class powers clashed in the air as we stared at each other. Eun-young started to panic, knowing exactly who this man was. Ryuma had ruled the rankings for years and was notoriously ruthless. Eun-young stepped forward to defuse the situation, but the enemy's crude insults crossed the line. One of Eun-young's men snapped, unable to take the disrespect any longer. "Shut your mouths. How dare you insult our president?" The ally roared, but Eun-young immediately cut him off. "Everyone, quiet," he ordered, turning to introduce himself. He was desperate to avoid a bloodbath, but Ryuma only scoffed. "What, you need a man to protect you too?" Ryuma sneered, lunging to grab Ryuma's arm. I stepped in instantly, blocking his path and pulling her behind me. Before he could react, his heavy fist came flying at me. He threw a punch to my face, growling, "I'm going to kill you anyway, kid, so stay down." Was he trying to pick a fight? Fine by me. I braced my feet and countered, driving my fist straight into his jaw. Let's end this final part. With a deafening crack, Ryuma was sent flying right into his terrified lackeys. I shook out my hand, telling my team to step back. Since they threw the first punch, this was strictly The Imperial Guild members panicked, but Ryuma Ryans barked at them to back off. "This is a one-on-one duel. You underlings get lost." Stripping off his shirt, Ryuma radiated a crimson magical aura. Yet, Eun-young did not look nervous at all. She looked at my direction, silently praying that I wouldn't kill too many. An S-class hero provoked a seemingly ordinary man only to get slapped into a cripple. All because the man standing before him was Meth Sword God who once saved an entire world. After I defeated Ryuma Ryans and the media blew it up, President of the Korean Hero Association marveled at the explosive news. Reports about me dominated the headlines almost daily. That was when the vice president asked Taewang if the Japanese Hero Association had really stopped investigating the matter, learning that the victim had actually admitted to being at fault. The vice president was still incredulous. There had to be a massive, unavoidable truth behind this. Perhaps the global hero landscape would undergo a massive shift because of me. Meanwhile, only one day remained before the Redwood Rift containment operation. S-class reinforcements from around the world had already arrived here, making early preparations for the coming battle. As these global heroes mingled, they shared their tactical plans. To boost morale, the Redwood Kingdom even hosted a grand mobilization festival. Naturally, the absolute center of attention at this event was me. Everyone's eyes were locked onto me, crowding around my side. All because I had beaten Ryuma Ryans, the S-class leader of the Imperial Guild. so badly he couldn't fight back. Everyone who approached me was talking about that very fight. Compared to all the hype, Jung In-ru and Yoon-ru-hee were just normal people. In-ru wondered what was making Ru-hee so depressed. But when he looked over at me, he noticed someone new by my side. A woman had joined me. Strangely, our two figures looked almost perfect together. It was Leloria, the #1 S-class hero from America. With a sudden smack, Jung In-ru slapped Yoon-ru-hee on the shoulder. He seemed to know why she was so downcast and urged her to get over to me. That was when I noticed Ru-hee walking awkwardly toward me, her cheeks flushed with a faint blush. Seeing her like that made the corners of my mouth curl into a slight smile. Tactfully, Leloria took her leave, saying, "See you next time, Kessel." Hearing that name made Ru-hee curious. Who was Kessel? When she realized it was me, she asked why I had an English name. "It is just my old name," I replied. This only fueled her curiosity. Had I lived abroad? Why were there no records of it, and why had she never heard it? Just then, nearby someone was glaring at me. Eun-young so sneered to himself that a useless fool like Ryuma could not even handle trash. Like me, it seemed he would have to step in. But suddenly, our conversation caught his attention. "I know you are strong, but they might not play fair. He has several S-class allies." I cut her off. "They are just birds of a feather. Nothing but cowards who bluff. If they are all like him, they are nothing to fear." I turned my gaze directly to Eun-young behind us. My look and tone instantly made his blood boil, his eyes glowing red with rage. "You damn bastard!" he screamed internally. "I will kill you!" With my own hands. But when night fell, Jung In-ru stared at a sight he had never seen. The entrance to the rift was choked with a thick, ominous darkness. Yet, his teammates showed absolutely no fear, because they had two S-class heroes on their side. Those words eased his heavy heart. That was right, nothing could possibly go wrong. He turned to order everyone to move out. Completely unaware that at this very moment, even I broke into a cold sweat. The ambient magic density was spiking rapidly. Staring at his high-tech tracker, a figure muttered, "The magic level is about to peak. Fear will spread, and they will all die." As his whisper faded, an incredibly heavy pressure crushed down on everyone, making it hard to breathe. The magic here was abnormal, far thicker than in the forest. Seeing my grim expression, Yoon-ru-hee grew tense too. Something was deeply wrong. Though it was supposed to be a routine raid, even the two S-class heroes were shocked. The magic density was so intense, it was actually restricting everyone's movements. However, the truth behind this hid a deep secret. Once we stepped inside, Jung In-ru ordered everyone to prepare tactically. Then turned to brief me on the plan. Everyone stood on high alert, pressing deeper into the rift. Just as we entered the Santorum Rift, a three-nation strike force was dispatched to Manhwa, the largest city in the northern rift zone of the Redwood Kingdom. However, this force faced a brutal ambush. Paper-thin wings buzzed in the air, a swarm of C-class killer bees. They were utterly helpless against them. Just as the Korean heroes were paralyzed with shock, a figure plummeted from the sky right in front of him. This sent a shiver of fear through S-Class Park. These beasts could easily crush even A-class heroes. Suddenly, one of them flashed right in front of him, thrusting a stinger like a poisoned dagger. Hariel threw a massive punch with all his strength, but the impact did absolutely nothing. Normally, a strike like that could easily tear a C-class beast to pieces. But ever since we entered this place, everyone's powers seemed heavily suppressed, preventing us from fighting at full strength. Meanwhile, Jung In-ru dodged an incoming decayed blade. Suddenly, a massive pack of orcs blocked their path. Monsters that should have been easy prey were now terrifyingly strong. Even with flawless teamwork and full power strikes, they only managed to leave a tiny scratch on the beast's head. The ferocious orc swung its axe, nearly killing him on the spot. Fortunately, Hee yanked him back just in time, saving an A-class hero who was completely overwhelmed. As the orc swung its heavy axe toward Hee, she dodged it with ease. After all, her speed is ranked second in all of Korea. In a split second, she appeared behind the orc, delivering a devastating kick that sent it crashing to the ground. Another orc swung a heavy club, but missed entirely, slamming it directly into its own comrade, knocking him silly. Shaken, the orc broke into a sweat. Hee flashed behind it, kicking it away. The orc chieftain let out a furious roar, but before his cry finished, I crushed him on the spot. Hee helped me finish off the last orc. Looking down at the bodies, I noticed something strange. A faint black mist rippled across each corpse. If we hadn't looked closely, we would have missed it entirely. This dark energy was the source of their unnatural strength. Looking at the corpses, a troubling question arose in my mind: why was dark magic present in this world? Just a month ago, I was considered a normal guy. Yet I easily crushed an S-class hero and paralyzed a top fighter with a single glance. All because this world has no concept of magic. Even S-class heroes have no idea what magic is. When monsters filled with dark energy, even an A-class hero's full power attack was utterly useless. In the blink of an eye, they nearly died right there. Taking advantage of his teammates' defense, a long-haired hero unleashed his ultimate strike. But it didn't even scratch the beast. Before they could recover, a swamp gargoyle lunged with brutal precision. A seemingly simple attack easily shredded their combat gear, leaving them completely bewildered by how these monsters had become so powerful. Just as panic set in, the creature flashed right behind him. Luckily, Jung-in-Ryu intervened just in time, slicing cleanly through the beast's tough hide. His blade struck true, bringing the gargoyle down. As In-Ryu landed, he looked at the bodies around him in shock. A common swamp gargoyle shouldn't be this powerful. This rift was abnormal. According to Redwood Intel, this chaos was already spreading across the nation. Meanwhile, in the Manos Rift, Korean S-class hero Park Hae-ryle was fleeing in absolute panic. Every teammate who had entered with him was dead. Even Redwood's elite heroes had fallen, including David, had been slaughtered, all because of a monster named Vel. I revealed this name to Eun-young, leaving her in shock. Every single one of these creatures was under Velcris' direct control, and their bodies have been injected with dark magic, I warned. We must be careful, the term puzzled Rui. Did it refer to the ghostly mist clinging to them? Was that the source of their power? She had only ever heard of magic in video games. Did they cast spells just like in a game? I nodded, confirming her guess. The absolute biggest difference between normal humans and heroes lies in magic. Before I could finish, a swamp gargoyle lunged at me with its fanged maw wide open. Instantly, I obliterated its body. My words made her realize this was a world without the slightest concept of magic. This world has been far too peaceful, I sighed. But it looks like that peace is about to end. Stealing my gaze, I unleashed a massive punch. I threw my left fist and stomped hard onto the beast. Instantly, the stone ghouls crumbled under my strikes, shattering into pieces. The team, whose attacks did nothing, stood frozen. They were completely shocked. After I warned them to slow down and avoid the hazards, I guided them straight to Velcris' lair. Jang In-ryu told everyone to stay on high alert. But I interrupted him. No need. I conjured a bright flame in my palm, and the next second, I hurled it at the web-trapped monsters. Unleashing a terrifying blaze, the fire exploded on them. Any creature tainted by Velcro's dark magic became his puppet, and ending them was mercy. Yet, with a simple wave of his hand, this ordinary-looking man turned monsters that baffled S-class heroes into ash. Declaring he would handle the final threat alone, everyone was stunned. After all, they had fought exhausting battles just to get here. They initially thought I was just strong, but this was beyond human limits. Even Eun-young, a powerful S-class hero, patted my shoulder and asked if I was on some new game plus or living a hidden second life. I just smiled. He was not wrong in my past life. I was that world's strongest sword god. Still, I kept quiet and asked Jang and Rue how close we were to the rift. My next words shocked them again. I wanted to clear the entire area today. Though they were exhausted, if I took out Velcro first, the rest of the problems would solve themselves. I turned and dashed toward the rift. Watching my figure fade into the distance, they sighed. How did he still have so much energy? Within moments, I spotted Velcro near the rift. Sensing danger, he let out a loud roar. I leaped above him in an instant, swinging my blade down, but the strike did nothing. It only angered Velcro, who spat a razor-sharp web at me. Dodging his attack, I unleashed several sword beams, slicing him to pieces in seconds. As he plummeted from the air, I exhaled slowly. Having absorbed dark magic during my training, I felt zero exhaustion. I returned to the group, leaving them speechless that I had finished the job in under 30 minutes, and I looked like I barely broke a sweat. I told them the surrounding monsters were gone, and they could finally rest. As night fell, everyone began working on their tasks. I roasted the leftover monster meat over the campfire. One teammate crept closer, asking for a taste. I handed him a piece, knowing exactly why he wanted to try it. He thought this meat was the secret to my power. As they chewed greedily, I smiled to myself. Though the meat had no special properties, I liked their drive. I didn't hate their desire to grow stronger. Reaching out, I gifted them a tiny spark of mana. They gasped in joy as sudden power surged through their bodies. I smiled quietly. Once we finished eating, Jang and Rue mentioned that pushing forward would lead to the rift's core. However, with their bags completely full, they needed to turn back. Ruhia agreed, as they were totally exhausted. My original plan was to keep the rift open to harvest rare material spatially, since items like the blue demon's heart could only be found in the Redwood Kingdom. But the presence of dark magic changed everything. It was a bad sign. I emptied my magic crystals and told them to take them back to the hotel, while I closed this rift for good. Ignoring their protests, I charged straight into the abyss alone. Even if terrifying beasts fueled by dark magic stood in my way, they would crumble under my blade. After wiping them out, I reached into the ashes and pulled out a glowing red crystal. Meanwhile, Jang and Rue worried about me. Is Do-jun going to be all right? Eun-young sighed. Judging by how he took off like a bullet, he is definitely holding back. But Eun-young misread his partner's expression, thinking he was anxious. Honestly, Ryusu just felt embarrassed being called an S-class hero alongside someone with my power. No S-class on Earth could rival me. Suddenly, I leaped high in front of a dark orc, decapitating him instantly. Two more charged me with giant axes, but I dodged their swings and conjured a burst of eternal fire in my palm. I hurled the fireball, reducing their massive bodies to ashes in seconds. Their dirty remains added another small fortune to my pockets. No matter how powerful the beast, none of them could survive a single blow. I sealed another blue demon's heart in a jar. Surrounded by endless monster corpses, I packed my growing haul of rare materials into my bag and headed deeper into the rift. Meanwhile, at the Redwood Hero Association, the staff stared in utter shock. The massive Santarum rift had completely vanished from their monitors. They were ecstatic, realizing the portal was closed. But when they checked which team did it, they saw the assigned squad had returned 10 minutes ago. They had no explanation. 10 minutes earlier, I had run into a two-headed ogre mutated by dark magic. Dodging its brutal strike, I spotted the rift's core behind it. Wanting a quick end, I channeled blazing heat into my sword. I unleashed my second style, flame breath, slicing clean through the brute's massive arm. Instantly, the beast clutched its bloody wound and screamed. Screaming in agony, I leaped again, driving my blade into his chest. The ogre swung its massive arm to crush me, but I slipped past and raised my sword high. I unleashed a web of razor-sharp sword beams. The shock waves shattered nearby trees and boulders, yet the agile beast managed to jump, narrowly avoiding my lethal strike. He slammed both fists down at me. I swung, slicing his leg clean off. As both heads shrieked in pain, I delivered a devastating cross/slash, tearing the monster apart. He collapsed like a broken puppet. Sheathing my blade, I walked toward the rift's core. Curiously, the dark energy here was weak, making me wonder if this was external. Someone did this on purpose. But filling a rift with this much dark energy would require an undead lord or an imperial lich. If they were actually here on Earth, most living things would already be undead. If this was indeed external, closing the rift would be useless. I shrugged and threw a heavy punch straight at the glowing core. The swirling energy cracked and shattered with a loud blast. Meanwhile, at the Redwood Association, the president stared at a report in his hands, trembling in absolute disbelief. One joint squad suffered massive casualties, with only a single survivor, yet another team closed their rift with 0 injuries. Most other squads had failed despite having S-class backups. Now, Eun-young's squad was the only one to successfully shut down a rift. Sensing a pattern behind this bizarre outcome, the president immediately demanded answers. He asked his assistant where I was. Hearing I would arrive soon, he stood up, eager to meet me. In truth, after leaving the group, I had already cleared another rift and entered a second one. The core was hidden in the lake right beneath my feet. With one simple punch, I shattered the spatial portal connecting Earth to another world. He could do this because he was once the strongest sword god of another world. Choosing to live as a normal boy, he hid his power. Meanwhile, President Lopez approached Eun-young to ask about the rifts. Though shocked another zone was cleared, Ryuma knew Do-jun was capable of it. But closing a rift entirely alone was still hard to believe. Lopez looked grim. This is highly classified, but you will find out soon enough. S-class heroes are already dying inside these rifts. The danger is far worse than we thought. Ryuma was not surprised. Honestly, if not for Seo Do-jun, he would be dead too. He told President Lopez the whole truth, leaving the president completely speechless. These grimacing monsters, supercharged by dark magic, have completely bypassed S-class. Eun-young even claims Seo Do-jun's power now eclipses every active hero rank, despite them having elite units before. The moment they suggested a standard cleanup, Eun-young shut him down. The rifts, are nothing like what we faced. Take this seriously. Right now, color is the only way to tell them apart. With no other option, President Lopez ordered an immediate sweep of all portals. Leaving the meeting, Eun-young wasted no time pulling out her phone. On the other end was President Na To-wong. She briefed the Korean Hero Association president on the dark magic. He couldn't ignore this. With things as they stand, even S-class heroes would struggle immensely against these dark magic-infused beasts. It would be an absolute nightmare, especially if an elite or boss monster absorbed it. We must prepare for the worst. Meanwhile, I had already arrived at the third rift zone. It was right by the river. since this area combines rivers, lakes, and islands. There is a 50% chance the rift's exit is underwater. If so, clearing this quickly gets complicated. Very few heroes can fight at full strength underwater. Finding a top-tier aquatic combatant is nearly impossible, even globally. The most famous is Ivan Roman, who became incredibly He is one of the world's top 3 highest paid heroes, purely because he can breathe underwater. But as I dove in, a thick wave of dark magic hit me. I took a deep plunge and swam straight toward the dark energy. The deeper I went, the darker it got. Yet, not a single drop of water touched my body, thanks to my mana barrier. By coating myself in this paper-thin shield, I can survive deep water or intense fire, unharmed. Suddenly, a massive, 20-meter-long water snake sliced through the dark currents right toward me. It was an alakin, a common aquatic beast from the ruined world. It does not possess massive energy, but it is a textbook serpentine hunter. Moving incredibly fast through the water, it coils around prey, crushes their bones, and swallows them whole. Feeling its dark magic, I flexed my mana and instantly shattered its grip, leaving its disgusted remains scattered around. Just then, dark magic infused. Piranhas caught the scent of blood and swarmed the carcass. Soon, they targeted me. With a few swift punches, I pulverized the vicious piranha-like beasts. As I kept tearing through the incoming swarm, the water turned into a gruesome mess. Carcasses floated everywhere, which only drew in even more predators lured by the blood. Killing them was effortless, but a complete waste of time. I spun around, broke free from the swarm, and surged forward. Finally, I located the source of that dark magic. It looked like a flat, ordinary fish, except for its single purple eye. I could not help but grin. I never expected to find Acromos. Here a rare, legendary beast from the ruined world. Anyone who obtained its power became an absolute legend. I was not about to let this slip away. Suddenly, its narrow, I twitched. Eager to seize its power, I reached out. But instantly, a surge of pitch-black energy pinned me down. As Acromos opened its mouth, spatial ripples resembling rifts distorted the water. Under this intense pressure, I could not just kill it, or I would lose my chance to acquire its spatial abilities. I had to suppress it with raw mana. As my power erupted, nearby fish disintegrated. But with my current mana pool, I would eventually be overwhelmed. If I got sucked into its subspace, death would be my only escape. I could not let that happen. So I made a choice. As my mana neared empty, I began absorbing the ambient dark magic. Better to gamble everything than to run dry and rot in its pocket dimension. Even if my body exploded, it beat rotting in there. As the chaotic, repulsive dark mana flooded my system, I briefly suppressed its power. Though blood trickled from my nose, my entire body felt ready to burst. In my old world, my physical form could handle limitless mana, but Seo Do-jun's body was fragile, and it had hit its absolute limit. Still, even as my consciousness faded, I pushed through. Suddenly, the calm lake erupted with a massive splash, and a man and a fish emerged from the cascading water. I stared in awe at the spatial energy rippling in my hands. It worked. I had fully absorbed Acromos's power, greatly boosting the mana of this fragile body. On top of that, I gained dimensional powers to slip between worlds, allowing me to create and shape pocket dimensions at will. This was my ultimate prize. I stood up and tossed my gear into the pocket dimension. I had hunted plenty of beasts before finding and the spatial struggle had shredded any remaining creatures, leaving the rift completely empty. Meanwhile, at the Korean Hero Association headquarters, Deputy Director Min Hong-ki briefed President Na Tae-wong on the official list of fallen heroes. Nah. Tae-wong sighed and closed his eyes, mourning the lost talent. The deputy director then detailed the situation in Redwood, amazed that Seo Do-jun closed such a powerful rift alone. He fell silent. Do-jun was far more remarkable than he had imagined. But not. Tae-won kept his poker face. With the recent incident, Do-jun was now a hot commodity, and his influence would only grow. He asked about their domestic rifts. The deputy director reported nothing unusual, though he worried they might face a sudden mutation like Redwood. So, he increased station guards and tightened surveillance to ensure not a single second went nah. Tae-won nodded in approval. If even the safe rifts were acting up, they had to stay ahead of it. Still, nah. Tae-won worried about Lopez was not someone who took losses lightly, and he would surely try to make Do-jun suffer. But Min had a different take. He actually worried Chairman Lopez would get completely wrecked by Do-jun instead. After a brief silence, Tae-won burst into hearty laughter. True. Do-jun is definitely not someone to mess with. At that moment, just as they predicted, I was making Chairman Lopez panic. He shouted. Isn't your demand to seeing his reaction? I stood up. If my terms are too steep, we have nothing to discuss. I barely took 2 steps before Chairman Lopez panicked. Wait. As an S-class hero, shouldn't you protect civilians? My expression turned icy. I've closed to rifts alone. Now you lecture me on duty. Is your idea of duty just unconditional sacrifice? Because, let me make this clear. Redwood's safety isn't my problem. If Korea's rifts collapse like this, could you force Redwood's heroes to die for us? Chairman Lopez swallowed hard. Currently, every rift within a 500-kilometer radius of unless they deploy every S-class hero in Redwood, they can only watch helplessly. But if those rifts mutate again and monsters flood out, Redwood is finished. That spine-chilling outcome is unimaginable, which is why they desperately need my help. Eun-young spoke up. If that's the case, the answer is simple. Just agree to Do-chun's terms. Isn't the survival of Redwood far more important than money? Her words silenced Lopez and his assistant. As I reached the door, he called out, $50 million for every rift you close. I grinned. Should have said so sooner. Now wire me the $100 million for the 2 rifts I already cleared. Eun-young worried my reputation would suffer if this leaked. But Redwood wouldn't dare speak of it. She glanced at my resolute silhouette, a faint blush warming her cheeks. I closed my eyes, making a silent promise to the old dude. I'll build Grandma the safest home. That should satisfy you, right? Later, at a restaurant, Jung In-ru asked if we should head to another rift. Slicing my steak, I replied, if we want maximum profit, so you guys can clear one gate with me first. While you and your guild members rest, I will go handle the second one. Of course, the rewards from the zones we clear together will be split fairly per person. This way, we can close up to 3 dungeons today. Hearing my plan, the Violet Guild members smiled, their faces lit up with renewed determination. I leaned in close to Eun-young and whispered for her not to push herself too hard before I got. They're telling her to just focus on keeping her team safe. My words made her blush instantly. Watching us, the others started gossiping, whispering that we must be dating and that I was just trying to cheer her up. Since there was still plenty of daylight left, I set off once again. I arrived at a new dungeon. Suddenly, a 15-meter tall monster appeared. It looked like a giant cyclops, but was far weaker than a real one. It lunged at me, but as its massive fist crashed down, I instantly slipped right behind it. While it was completely off guard, I wound up my fist and delivered a massive blow. But the strike barely did any damage and only made him angry. Still, now that I knew how tough this guy was, it was the perfect chance to test some of my newly developed techniques. The Cyclops charged forward blindly, but the second he reached me, I slammed a powerful roundhouse kick right into his face. The impact made him spit black blood as veins bulged violently across his skin. His skin turned a fiery red as if severely burned. I spun around and waved my hand, conjuring a pocket dimension that looked like a miniature rift. It materialized right in front of my palm, slicing clean through the Cyclops' oncoming fist. As the monster stood there in utter shock, another pocket dimension opened right above its head, and its severed half crashed to the ground with a heavy thud. While this spatial power was incredibly strong, it also came with many limitations. Moving living creatures or fast-moving objects into that space consumed over 5 times my usual mana and focus. Meanwhile, the Association's Rift Monitoring Center had just received word that the local dungeon had been successfully cleared. With the Rift Zone officially sealed, President Peros sat frozen in his monitoring seat, utterly stunned by the news. Clearing an entire high-level rift in just 8 hours was absolutely unheard of, and although he already knew I had cleared 2 other rifts all on my own, seeing it happen live made him doubt his own eyes. He quickly ordered his assistant to wire the funds, and within seconds, $50 million was deposited directly into my account. Sure, this was solving the nation's biggest crises, but at this rate, clearing 24 rifts would cost a staggering $1.2 billion. President Peros bit his lip, looking as if he had just made a final decision. "We cannot let him take all of this money," he muttered. The assistant gasped, asking if they should delay my payment. Peros immediately shot that down, snapping, "No. I want you to go gather every off-duty S-class hero in the area, and grab as many A-class heroes as you can. We are building a special task force. We cannot let that guy Seo Do-jun take everything for himself. Tell them the group reward is $10 million. He wanted to turn this into a race to see who could clear more dungeons. Me. Or his elite global task force. Well, the game was on. Once my deal with the Empire was signed, they wired the bounty every single time I sealed a rift. They did not try to cheat me out of the money, but the sheer cost of paying me was draining their treasury. That was why they recruited international rankers to compete against me. Listening to Eun-young explain all of this, I shrugged and said, "The association is not stupid. Sure, they are playing dirty, but the money does not really matter to me anymore. The funds promised to the original Seo Do-jun have already been paid in full. So from now on, I am focusing on a personal mission." And just as the association hoped, this fierce race drastically accelerated the clears. Updates kept flooding the command center. At 3 p.m., Seo Do-jun and the Violet Guild successfully cleared Rift Zone B035. At 5:10 p.m., the United Task Force cleared Rift Zone B012. 1 S-class hero suffered minor injuries, 5 B-class rankers were hurt, and 2 A-class heroes were critically wounded. At 9:50 p.m., Rift Zone B037 was cleared. Solo Raider, Seo. Days flew by like this, and the association's monitoring staff were completely exhausted. Having barely slept a wink for days, they all had deep, dark circles under their eyes. Fortunately, the rifts infected with dark magic were closing at a rapid pace. But this left other areas completely unmanned. Forced to rely on automated sensors and round-the-clock camera feeds, no one knew what might happen, keeping everyone on high alert. But to their absolute shock, within just a few days, every single gate contaminated with dark magic had been completely sealed. In an instant, the entire staff stood up from their desks and burst into wild cheers. It is finally over. Team leader Malu rushed into President Lopez's office, shouting with pure joy, "President, we have successfully closed every single gate in Sanct." Lopez let out a heavy emotional sigh. Finally, the crisis was finally averted. His stiff, tense shoulders relaxed for the first time in days. He praised the team for successfully sealing every single gate infected with dark magic. But just as Malu turned to leave, Lopez called out, "Wait. Although the original plan still has over 40 rifts left to clear, taking a single day to rest won't hurt anyone." Ignoring Malu's puzzled expression, Lopez ordered him to organize a massive banquet to reward the exhausted heroes for their hard work in the trenches. That evening, elite heroes from around the world gathered, all dressed in gorgeous, high-class attire. Jang and Ryu guided me, and Eun-young, over to President Lopez to pay our respects, before announcing that we were already planning to head back to our home country. Seeing my completely indifferent expression, Lopez panicked and began to stutter. "There are still so many rifts left. Surely you should finish the job before leaving." But Jang and Ryu simply shrugged. "Our squad was only contracted for the Sankaline gates, so our job here is technically done." Lopez kept stuttering, desperately trying to find a way to make me stay, but Inru already saw right through him. Inru turned to ask for my thoughts, but before I could answer, Lopez eagerly cut in. Begging for a private chat, as we walked, he pressed me on whether I would stay. But I calmly replied that I had already made enough cash and collected plenty of loot, and might just head home. Watching us talk from a distance, Jang and Ryu found it hilarious. Lopez looked exactly like a desperate guy getting rejected, but the next scene made him nudge Eun-young, who had frozen completely stiff. She watched as I casually walked up to a stunning woman. In reality, I only approached her to ask for a VIP invite to the exclusive Golden Market. She did not reject me, but she did propose a single condition: that I visit her home a week before the market opened. That demand left Juhi completely shocked, her mind instantly running wild with crazy scenarios. Gloria noticed her staring from a distance, so she pulled out her phone and gestured that I did not have to answer right away. She smiled, saying she genuinely wanted me to visit, so she would hand over the invite early. Soon, I held a VIP membership card, but just as I went to thank her, a voice echoed from nearby. What a gorgeous sight! The top beauties of our country and abroad all gathered together. It was Kang Young-so swaggering over to mock me. "Hero Seo Do-jun, you are quite something, laughing and chatting with these lovely ladies." I turned to face him. While he had a smile on his face, his eyes were dead cold, and his voice dripped with mockery. As tension filled the room, he suddenly raised his voice for everyone to hear, saying, "Hey, do not be so tense. I will not do anything to you. I just want to introduce you to a friend of mine." The friend he meant was none other than Ryuma. Eun-young gasped in shock, having no idea he was already out of the hospital. Watching from afar, President Lopez was panicking. He had purposely avoided inviting Ryuma to prevent this exact nightmare. Yet the guy had crashed the party anyway. Ryuma glared at me with absolute hatred, but I casually broke the silence. "Looks like your body has fully recovered." Ryuma replied stiffly that thanks to me, he learned a valuable lesson. Eager to prevent a brawl, President Lopez rushed over the second he sensed the tension, saying, "Hero Ryuma, we did not invite you tonight, because we were worried the party might be too much for your body, but seeing you here relieves me. There is a cozy couch over there, so let us go catch up." Hearing Lopez try to intervene, Kang Young-so scowled. He knew that if he let this slide, Ryuma would be dragged away by the old man. He quickly cut in, saying, "Sure, his body is healed, but his pride must still hurt. Let us end the small talk here so he can go rest. Otherwise, those freshly healed wounds might open right back up. Besides, you have not gotten an apology yet, have you? You were the one who got beat down, so you deserve an apology." Hearing his instigating words, the three nearby looked incredibly grim. Right then, I suddenly appeared behind Ryuma and called out to him, "Ryuma, don't you also think that guy is total trash?" This bizarre question left Kang Young-so utterly confused. Just then, Ryuma turned around, glaring angrily at Kang Young-so. I continued, trash like him, who contributes absolutely nothing to society, should just be thrown away, right? Still clueless, Kang put a hand on Ryuma's shoulder, asking what was wrong. But Ryuma's eyes only grew cold. He pulled out his phone and pressed play. As the recording echoed, everyone in the room learned the truth. Kang Young-so had tried to recruit Ryuma to murder me. The look on Kang's face was beyond description. Hunters from every nation could barely believe their ears. Kang Young-so had actually plotted to assassinate an S-class hero from his own country. To make matters worse, Gloria and Yoon-ju-hee's names were brought up repeatedly in ways disgusting to describe. Their words embarrassed both of them. Honestly, I didn't expect the Behealing Sizai to work this well. I smiled to myself. Kang Young-so, you picked the wrong opponent. Starting now, I'm going to make you beg for death. He felt countless eyes drilling into him, sweat pouring down his face. Then, it clicked. It was all because of that brainless mobster of his. That idiot ruined everything. Trembling with rage, he marched right up to Ryoma. Terrified Ryuma. Ryos would keep talking. Kang plunged his hand like a blade straight into his stomach. Ryuma collapsed, coughing up blood, while Kang scrambled to escape. Seeing this, President Lopez ordered everyone to grab him. Eun-young started to panic, but I just stood there, quietly watching him run. Confused by my lack of action, she asked why I wasn't stopping him. I just flashed a simple smile. Word of tonight's events spread like wildfire, shocking the world. The impact on Korea and the Redwood Nation was massive, forcing both hero associations and their governments to release official statements, promising a full investigation. In Seoul, a single cold look from her boss sent Hong Hee-joo into a fury. Kang Young-so, whom she sent to kill Seo, had botched the job completely and made himself a globally wanted criminal. This mess had dragged in both governments and hero associations, promising full investigations. It made her absolutely livid. A bunch of useless idiots, she spat, grabbing a nearby golf club and slamming it onto the table. Outside, Manager Lee was sweating bullets, listening to the crash. Moments later, she called him in. The room was in complete ruins. Smashing a dozen decorations had finally cooled her temper, and she gradually calmed down. She turned to Manager Lee, demanding to know where Kang Young-so was. Cowering, Lee reported that both Interpol and the World Hero Association were hunting him down. But there was still no sign of his arrest. Hearing this, Hong exploded with rage. That useless piece of trash should have been dead already. Then she demanded to know if the loose ends were tied up. Lee assured her they had wiped his accounts, contacts, and security footage clean. With everything handled, Lee noticed she was still dead silent. He tentatively asked if something else was bothering her. Instead of answering, she threw a phone at him. He caught it, confused, while she nervously bit her thumb in terror. She whispered that it was her private phone and Lee family had the number. Yet, an unknown sender had just messaged her, threatening to leak all their dirty secrets if she didn't cooperate. Manager Lee stared at the screen, completely baffled. Could this be Kang Young-so? He asked. What does he want? She snapped, throwing a ceramic vase right at his head. That doesn't matter. The real problem is this blackmailer. You useless bastards better handle this. Lee knew that if he kept following her orders, he would end up ruined. He needed an exit strategy to survive. But as he opened the door, he froze, staring at a stern elderly man. See, Chairman, he whimpered. The old man stared back with ice-cold eyes. This was the true ruler of the Taiga Group. A tycoon carrying the entire Korean economy on his shoulders. Chairman Seo Do-jun. Terrified, Lee quickly bowed low and shuffled out of the way. Seo didn't even glance at him as Lee scurried away. Inside, Hong Hee-joo froze, completely caught off guard by her father's sudden arrival. She managed to stammer, "Father," before a brutal slap caught her right across the face. Staring at his trembling daughter, Seo growled, "Do I look like a senile old fool to you?" Hong Hee-joo tried to play dumb, stammering that she had no idea what he meant. But her excuse was cut short by another hard slap. Seo leaned in close, his face twisted in fury. "You think I don't know? You ordered Kang to kill Seo Do-jun. He carries my blood, and he's an S-class hero. I am bringing him back into the family, where he belongs." Looking at her father, she realized her game was up. But truth was, Seo Do-jun had always hated the Pi Group. They got cocky just because of one guy, Jang Song-ho. Now, fate was back in the old man's hands. He glared at her. "Now, go clean up your mess." Knowing she was completely disposable now, she kept quiet. Meanwhile, on the flight back to Korea, I sat in my seat, totally relaxed. The trip had been incredibly profitable. I scored a massive pile of materials, cash, and even walked away with Acromos's pocket dimension. Suddenly, Eun-young leaned in, dying to ask me a question. She wanted to know why I let Kang so run. I just chuckled and told her that things are much more fun this way. Back in Seoul, I watched Eun-young happily scarfing down a burger, and I couldn't help but smile. My mind drifted back to the day I got home and found Grandma groaning in bed. I had panicked, demanding to know why they hadn't gone to the hospital or called me. That's when Eun-young chimed in. "Don't be mad, big bro," she said. "Grandma didn't want to waste the money you risked your life for." Hearing that broke my heart. I told her that health comes first. Then leaned in close to Grandma's ear. I whispered that I made a fortune in Redwood Country, and she never had to worry about bills again. Tears rolled down her face. I immediately checked her into Korea's top hospital. Since then, visiting her with Eun-young and grabbing burgers became our daily routine. Once Grandma was settled, I headed to the Gasan Hero Center's weapon shop. Inside, Choi Chol-gwan gasped as I handed him a pristine blue crocodile heart. He'd never seen one in such perfect condition. He promised that if everything went smoothly, I would get a sword beyond my wildest dreams. I asked how long it would take. He rubbed his chin and estimated that if he started right now, it would be ready in about 3 weeks. Hearing that, I told him I had a few other requests. He agreed without hesitation. I reached back into my bag and pulled out another set of materials alongside the heart. This time, it was Wilkera's silk glands and venom. Koi's eyes widened. "Are you looking to craft a set of armor?" Wilkera's silk makes incredible gear. It has elite defense and feels light as air. But I shook my head and told him I was actually getting it made for my little sister. He paused at that. "A sister?" Wilkera armor is top tier. Even A-class heroes have to wait in line for this stuff. "Is your sister a high-ranking hunter too?" I pulled out a photo on my phone and explained she wasn't a hero at all. I just wanted it designed like normal clothes. He stroked his chin thoughtfully, making me wonder if there was a problem. "Kids grow fast," he said. "She might outgrow it in a year or two." I smiled, pulling a jar of glowing green liquid from my bag. I explained it was Terap essence. If we blend this with plant fibers, the fabric's elasticity will stretch up to 10 times its original size. Choi admitted he'd never heard of this liquid. Truth is, Terap isn't some rare potion, just a common weed. I turned toward the exit, saying I couldn't wait to see the final results. leaving him scratching his head. First, the Cyclops blood. Now this. He couldn't figure out where I got my information. I just looked back and smirked. Just chalk it up to 8th grade syndrome. Once I walked out of the shop, I set up a meeting with Park Sang-gun, the former chief secretary of S Group. He sat down and asked what kind of intel I was looking for. I told him Eun-young had recommended him, saying he was the perfect guy to help. He asked what exactly I had in mind, promising to help as long as it was legal. I told him I wanted to build a house. He looked confused, pointing out that I should probably talk to a construction firm. Unless I wanted something completely custom, I cut straight to the chase. I wanted the safest house in the world. When he asked about the budget and location, I said Seoul, with a budget of around 500 billion won. The moment the words left my mouth, he choked, spraying his coffee straight across the table. Unfortunately, I was right in the blast zone. I calmly asked if this was his first time handling a real budget. Panicking, he apologized, pulling out a handkerchief to wipe off my face. Wiping the coffee off me, he sweat nervously. That's not a house, that's a fortress. I thought about it. A fortress actually sounded pretty good. Would 1 trillion won cover it? I asked. He stared at me blankly before asking, Mr. Seo Do-jun, do you know where the safest house in Korea is right now? I told him it was probably S Group chairman Oh's estate in Gangnam. He nodded. Exactly. His mansion is valued at 11 billion won. That is around 8 billion won for the land and construction. With your budget, you could build something 10 times more incredible. But there is a catch. You can't buy any land in Gangnam right now. Why? Because Gangnam has never experienced a single dungeon gate crack. Property values, they never drop. They just climb every single day. We can easily build the finest house, but putting it in the safest area is nearly impossible. I stayed quiet for a moment, then looked at him. Gangnam isn't actually safe. That's just a delusion the residents tell themselves. Park fell silent. If anyone else had said that, he would have laughed. But the guy sitting across from him was Korea's 8th S-class hero. Was it really just wishful thinking? In truth, Gangnam's safety record was nothing but a media-driven illusion. The fact that the district had never seen a rift was pure luck. Even in the ruined future I came from, every single zone eventually collapsed. It was just a matter of order. Gate rifts will hit everywhere, so to me, one spot is as good as another. It didn't matter to me. I told Park Sung-wook I was buying property in District 9. He was stunned. A rift had opened there years ago, and even nearby Mapor had seen rifts recently. He was worried. He asked if I had a special reason for choosing District 9. I told him I just lived close by. Soon, I entered the rift again. A monster turned, drawn by a noise, but only for a split second. I sliced it cleanly in half. Staring at the blade, I marveled at its power. It far exceeded my expectations. Its creator, Choi Chol-gwon, proudly declared it was the absolute best work of his life. He proudly refused to charge me, saying I provided the materials. But I had already wired the funds. He insisted his pride as a blacksmith was worth more than money. But when he looked down and saw the 1 billion won transfer, he froze. I told him I hate owing favors. Swings later, I realized this blade was easily worth 100 billion. Thanks to him, clearing rifts was now effortless. After telling Park about my plans, I spent weeks diving into rifts. Buying 3,000 square meters in District 9 would run me at least 400 billion. Maybe even 500 billion, depending on the owners. Park urged me to scale down, but I told him I'd raise the cash. At night, I picked up Eun. Riding home beside me on the scooter, she happily said Grandma was leaving the hospital soon. Then, leaning against my head, she whispered, "Brother, are you too busy? You don't have to come daily. I'll watch Grandma." Her sweetness made me go quiet. Just then, A suited man by a sedan asked, "Are you Mr. Seo? Chairman Seo Do-jun sent us to fetch you." Hearing this, I set Eun-young down and told her to close her eyes. I told her to wait a second. Then, I stomped down, crushing their car into a mangled heap. The suited man trembled in sheer terror, utterly speechless. I turned to him coldly. "Get lost. Never show your face here again." He scrambled away in a panic. I turned to Eun-young, explaining I only punished someone trying to take me away. She looked up, dead serious. "If they try to take me away from you, can I punish them too?" I scooped her up, telling her not to worry. I would handle it. Oddly, a man bought over 10,000 meters, but only built a 500 square meter house. The designer was baffled by the massive walled-in perimeter. Little did anyone know, the man actually planned to breed monsters on his land. After I took Eun-young home, Eun-joo mentioned my house hunt to Jang In-ru over dinner. Jang In-ru urged her, "What about you? Move next door. If you don't do it quickly, someone else will steal the spot." Eun-joo's imagination immediately ran wild. Jang In-ru teased, "It is entirely possible. Plus Do-jun isn't just moving. He won't stay there for just a year or two." Eun-joo fell silent. Jang In-ru watched her quietly. After a long pause, Jang In-ru suddenly smiled. "Maybe I should move my office next to Mr. Seo Do-jun, too." Seeing her friend's reaction, she teased, "Look how tense you are." I'm not joking, though it's not like that. After Redwood, I realized our guild needs to be on the right track. So hitching a ride on a sports car down the highway is a great move. Eun-joo stared in disbelief. "Are you treating Mr. Do-jun like a sports car?" Jang In-ru shrugged. "Of course. You saw him. He is on a different level than other S-class heroes. I'm thinking of building a multi-purpose complex nearby as our guild headquarters." Eun-joo loved the idea. At the Korean Hero Association headquarters, Na-twang questioned me. "Hero Seo Do-jun, I heard you closed 9 rifts in just 2 weeks. That is a massive achievement. Is there a reason for this rush? Do you foresee Korea turning into Redwood?" Looking at a massive payout notification on my phone, I replied, "Not anytime soon." This only confused him more. "Then why hunt so relentlessly?" I chuckled, telling him I was just short on cash. An S-class hero being broke baffled, nah. Twang, but I explained, I wanted to build a house. I also have a favor to ask regarding construction. From that day, the land around my property saw intense activity. From Eun-young to Na-twang and the Forbidden Flower Guild, everyone rushed in. Smelling opportunity, powerful heroes and real estate investors swarmed the area. Even the head of T Group Seo Do-jun sensed a massive business gold mine there. So he ordered his assistant to find my exact plot and buy up all adjacent land. Rumors exploded, causing real estate prices in District 9 to quietly skyrocket to astronomical heights. Luckily, I had already secured over 10,000 square meters. When I laid out my blueprint, Park Sung-wook stared in shock. "Is this it? 10,000 meters, and you're only building a 500 square meter house. What's the rest for?" I replied, "I just needed it to be secure." "Looking at the plans?" he asked. "Are you building a fortress wall? With no interior styling, it'll be fast. But what's the official purpose?" "We must report it." I told him President Na-twang was handling that, which made him even more bewildered. What required the Hero Association president to step in? Soon, I headed into another rift. Meanwhile, Na-twang met with Mayor Lee, who sat stunned by my request. "Taming monsters, is that actually possible?" "Nah. Toowang laughed. I was shocked too, but it's completely unprecedented. Taming beasts and looking at him, he is dead serious about it. So, I approved it. And Mayor, the craziest part. The first monster he wants to tame is a Meanwhile, facing a roaring beast, I stabbed my sword into the ground. Let's take it easy today. As the Caserion's massive tail whipped down, I dodged. Even its intense energy blasts couldn't touch me, fueling its rage. Thus, a long battle of attrition began. After an hour, the Caserion, powerful enough to shred S-class heroes, collapsed, gasping for air. Smiling, I knelt down, gently petting its head as it lay there, exhausted. I told it to stay safe and that I'd be back. I hummed a tune as I left the beaten beast. Truly, home security boils down to two things: strong walls and loyal guards. So, once the house is built, I'll move the Caserion in. But first, I need a device to absorb external impacts, which requires magic crystal powder. Dodging an incoming blast, I dodged it and leaped behind the monster. Opening a tiny spatial pocket, I pulled out my custom sword. I ran my fingers along the blade, triggering my ultimate technique, Cataclysm. The moment I opened my eyes, countless crimson crescents sliced toward the one-eyed orc. In mid-air, they twisted into devastating, piercing spirals of flame. The orc shrieked in terror, but the fiery spirals tore straight through its body. As the beast collapsed, I landed gracefully, reaching in to extract its glowing magic crystal. I crushed the crystal into fine powder and poured it into a jar. Honestly, since rifts are caused by external impacts, maybe these crystals could be used to suppress them. If it works, it'll be perfect. But while I was busy clearing rifts and visiting Grandma, a massive news bomb dropped. S-class, hero, Seo Do-jun. Chairman Seo smirked, thinking I must be terrified to call a sudden press conference. No matter what he says, once rumors spread, people will only see him as my grandson. The public bought it instantly. No wonder S-class at his age, T-Group must have bought his way up. Talk about a silver spoon. Why the press conference, though? To deny it. Were they trying to cover it up? With a light touch, the man unleashed a world-ending force from his blade, vaporizing monsters. He was this powerful because he had killed the Demon King in another world. Yet, to the public, I was just a privileged silver spoon kid. So, I called a press conference, the reporters clamoring to know the truth. After a brief silence, I calmly dropped the truth. I was born out of wedlock and abandoned as a child. The room froze in shock as I continued speaking. With everything that had happened to the other Seo, I didn't go out of my way to prove that this life was real. But my clear maturity shook everyone who used to doubt me. Just like that, those who were once my classmates stepped forward to back me up. Some reporters even dug up my old computer, which slowly won the public's sympathy and showed them my true character. Consequently, the T-Group stock, which had been rising steadily before the press conference, suddenly plummeted by 30%. The chairman of T-Group, Seo Do-jun, was absolutely losing his mind. Meanwhile, as I balanced hunting rifts and visiting my grandmother, the promise I made to the original Seo Do-jun was finally about to be fulfilled. And since I keep my word, I will build them the safest home in the world. Although T-Group went quiet after that last blow, there is still an annoying fly lurking in the shadows. But he will walk right into my trap. Once this house is finished, it will defend against any rifts that open nearby. Until then, I must keep any rifts from appearing. Just then, Park Seung-wook reported that, per my instructions, the outer wall was already completed. The house itself was also in its final stages. I asked when it would be done, as I wanted to move in soon. Hearing this, he guaranteed it would be finished within 10 days. I then ordered him to keep everyone out tonight. When night fell, I walked across the 10,000 meters of land I bought. My goal was to infuse this entire property with all the mana crystals I had gathered. Tapping my chest lightly, a dark spatial rift opened up. I pulled out 5 mana crystals of different colors and pressed my hand to the ground. Guided by my magic, the crystals flew to their designated spots, and a massive magic circle materialized right in the center of the outer walls. After inspecting the setup powered by those 5 top-tier mana crystals, I took out a jar of crushed crystal powder and scattered it at the center of the magic circle. Soon, the powder spread over the entire 10,000 meters. With that done, I prepared to summon a guardian. Meanwhile, in a dark underground garage, a woman screamed at Kang and Seo, calling him a piece of trash. She yelled that instead of threatening her, he should figure out how to kill Seo. If you've got the balls, go bring me that bastard's head right now. Looking at her hysterical face, Kang and Seo knew she had been kicked out by her family and in-laws and was just venting on him. He sneered, "You think I want this? I'm holding back my urge to murder the bastards who ruined me, focusing only on Seo." Hearing this, Hong Hee-joo asked him why he hadn't acted yet, wondering if he was afraid. Kang and Seo barked at her to shut her mouth. "Shut your mouth and stay quiet. Do you think a fight between S-class heroes is child's play? I wanted to kidnap his family to use as leverage, but he's too guarded and never leaves their side. Listen to me, once we lock horns with Seo Do-jun, there is no turning back. I've made up my mind to wipe out his entire family if necessary. I told you, no one I target survives. The moment he lets his guard down, I'll grab his family. So even if you don't push me, I will slowly torture him to death, no matter the cost." Meanwhile, I arrived at a magnificent hall inside an eerie castle. In this place, there was nothing but death knights. No other living beings existed here. These death knights felt no pain because they were incredibly powerful and lacked physical bodies. If challengers couldn't destroy the core connecting their souls with absolute precision, they would be trapped in a never-ending battle. These death knights still retained the master swordsmanship they learned as humans, and each of them would use their unique skills to shred any challenger. To this, I simply thought, since you were once honorable knights, fighting you empty-handed would be quite disrespectful. Keeping my distance, I severed one death knight's head with a single slash, causing the other 2 to charge at me instantly. Honestly, I enjoy sword duels. In my past life, I lived with a blade in hand from the moment I learned to walk. Armed with my family's secret swordsmanship, I had no need for other martial arts. So, I decided to clear this place using only my sword. It was quite exhilarating. Facing the final death knight, I split him in 2 with one clean strike. I had hoped at least one of them would pose a challenge, but I was deeply disappointed. Just then, a figure approached. Speak of the devil, an elite had appeared already. Before I could even finish my thought, he lunged at me with his sword. As expected, this one was completely different from the rest. His blade was incredibly sharp. Perfect. I love fighting opponents like this. After clashing for a bit, I praised him, saying his last strike wasn't half bad. Then, I ducked low and delivered a lightning-fast counter, bringing the Death Knight to his knees, placing my blade on his shoulder to make him my guardian. I pressed the cold steel against his neck and whispered a single word. Submit. The incredibly powerful Death Knight instantly chose to serve me. Over the next 2 days, I recruited 5 elite Death Knights. Raising my hand, I summoned for spatial vortexes right in front of me. With a gentle wave of my palm, the vortexes pulled the Death Knights inside. I couldn't help but chuckle. Now that my guardian knights were secured, all I needed was a watchdog. So, I returned to the nest of Caserion. The moment his cross-shaped pupils locked onto me, he roared, "You're that human from before. Get out of my nest." My eyes turned cold, and I told him I wasn't here to play. You just need to follow me quietly. Caserion found this absurd. How could a mere human, no different from a bug, speak to him like that? But at that moment, I unleashed a massive wave of pressure, freezing him in his tracks. He sensed an entirely different, overwhelming power radiating from me, leaving him with no choice but to submit. Once he took to the sky with me on his back, I ordered him to fly outside. Swallowing his pride under my intense pressure, he flew toward the gate of the rift. Meanwhile, in a bustling city below, people crossing the street were suddenly blanketed by a massive shadow. Looking up, they saw a colossal beast flying overhead. It was Caserion. Riding on his back, I warned him to fly carefully and avoid hitting any buildings. It was a frustrating realization for him. The former king of the rift now had to carefully avoid structures built by mere bugs. Sensing his resentment, I coldly warned him, "Keep your head down. Are you trying to rebel?" Unable to endure my oppression, he let out another angry roar. Instantly, the pedestrians below clutched their heads in agony, giving Caserion a brief moment of smug satisfaction. But within 3 seconds, I kicked his head hard, telling him to stop scaring people and to leave quietly. After leaving the city, we flew to the Mariana Islands in the Pacific, so-called rift zones or spatial tiers that can appear anywhere. If they form on deserted islands, they turn those places into monster nests. Just like the place before me now. Scanning the monsters ahead, I ordered Caserion to go wild. As the beastmen rushed us, Caserion swiped his claws, effortlessly, piercing their bodies. These terrifying creatures were nothing but bugs to be slaughtered before him. Watching from the side, I picked up a mana stone from the ground and called out to the rampaging dragon, "From now on, I'll take you out for walks, because you need to earn your keep." Not long after, my custom house was completed, featuring 1 basement level and 3 floors above ground. It was packed with state-of-the-art security systems, leaving my newly recovered grandmother completely stunned. It was so grand, calling it a palace wasn't an exaggeration. What puzzled them most was the adjacent field, wondering why monsters were there. I explained, "Think of it like raising chickens in a backyard." Hearing this, Eun-young jumped out of Yoon-guyen's arms, eager to explore. I told her to be careful and go with grandmother. Once we were left alone at the entrance, Ju-han stopped me. "Do-gun, why do I feel an ominous presence coming from underground? Are you keeping something else down there besides I was surprised. Her sensory abilities had sharpened enough to detect them. Reassuring her, I said, "Don't worry. Those are just the backyard guardians. Also, I forgot to mention, thank you for looking after my grandmother and Eun-young while I was away. Let's grab dinner together this weekend." But Ju-jun replied, "Do-jun, you didn't forget, did you? We promised Eun-young we'd take her to the amusement park this weekend. She's been looking forward to it." I felt a sudden pang of regret, having been too focused on rifts lately. "Right, let's take Eun-young to the amusement park then." As I spoke, Jaehyun looked up at me and said, "Maybe we can go together." Before long, the weekend arrived, and Ju-han and I walked with Eun-young toward the park. Our appearance turned heads immediately, sparking whispers from the crowd. "Isn't that the S-class hero, Seo Do-jun? Is that Yoon Ju-jun next to him? And that little girl must be his sister from the news. Are they on a date?" We paid no attention to the gossip, focusing on enjoying the rides with Yoon. By afternoon, Eun-young had fallen fast asleep. As I looked at Ju-han, she asked why I was staring. Honestly, I was just remembering what Eun-young told me about how Ju-hyun made delicious food for them and took them to a lovely cafe. I thanked her sincerely, but upon hearing my Yoon, Ru-hyun had this totally confused look on her face. But once she figured it out, her cheeks flushed bright red. She quickly started the car to drive us back. But sitting in that passenger seat, I suddenly sensed something and immediately spoke up to her. I felt a familiar, deadly aura invading the main house, so I had to rush back. I told him to guard Hao-en, and the moment he agreed, I leaped straight out of the moving car. By the time I made it home, there was Kang Ying-shou already launching an attack. He cursed, wondering what those damn tin cans even were. Then, a mental blast slammed into him. The claws belonged to Caserion, leaving him utterly baffled as to why such a beast was here. And as expected, just as I expected, that coward tried to sneak in while Juan was away. With a wave of my hand, I ordered the Death Knights to back off. Trapped in the center, Kang Ying-shou, suddenly he wondered why those bastards were backing off. Then, my voice rang out. You came all this way. It would be pretty embarrassing to get scared off by a watchdog, wouldn't it? That's why I had them step down. Tracking the sound, he finally saw me. He looked absolutely furious. But in a split second, my fist slammed right into his face. I smirked, mocking him. What's wrong? Can't even dodge a tiny punch? Or do you need me to go easy on you? That was the exact moment. Toynbee finally realized that despite both of us being S-class heroes, the gap between us was massive. I swung my fist again. He dodged in pure panic, but the blow still tore off half his ear. Knowing a direct clash was completely unwinnable, he pulled out a bottle of red potion. Watching him, I mocked. What, you thirsty? He just smirked, and suddenly, his skinny left arm ballooned into a massive, grotesque limb. This scene made me instantly realize it was the Oceanus elixir, a potion granting Titan arm strength. Seeing it was a one-time use item, I asked, "Get that on the black market?" Man, your finances must be absolute trash. That sent him into an absolute rage. He slammed his mutated fist into the ground, screaming, "Don't mock me. Go protect your grandmother." It turned out his missed strike was meant to trigger an earthquake to collapse her house. But to his absolute horror, I appeared right beside him. "It's useless," I whispered. "I've already coated this ground with magic dust to absorb every single shockwave. Tell me, are you starting to feel hopeless yet? From this moment on, your body pays the price for even thinking of hurting my family." With a heavy crash, I slammed his face straight into the dirt. Even after he passed out cold, I didn't stop. A dark grin spreading. My fist slammed into his skull. But right then and you won't believe this, he saw Eun-young nearby and stopped. Turns out, Seo Do-jun and his crew rushed him here, barely keeping Kang and Seo alive. That night, in my dream, another Seo Do-jun was smiling at me. He said because I made all his wishes come true. His worries were gone. He kept thanking me, saying what I did far exceeded his expectations, and he had no idea how to repay me. To that, I only told him to brush it off. It was the least I could do. After all, I'm Seo Do-jun now, so you have absolutely nothing to worry about.